Welcome everyone to the Town of Wakefield Board of Appeals meeting for Wednesday, November 20th. I'm going to remind everyone that the meeting is being recorded. It will be available for replay on the town's website within a few days. I'm going to start by calling attendance for board members. Chip Tarbell.
Here.
Dave Hatfield.
Here.
Joe Pride.
Here.
Mickey Feely.
Here.
Kasumi Humphries.
Yeah.
Kirsten Brown.
Here.
Greg Demersion. Greg, have you joined yet? Okay, we will make a note when Greg joins us.
Looks like his name's
that-
appearing, so he's on his way in.
Okay,
Hopefully.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There he is.
hey,
Hello.
Greg, just call the roll. Greg Demersion.
Here.
Okay. With that, everybody's here. I'm going to ask Joe as our clerk to read the legal notice for the meeting.
Sure thing, Mr. Chair. Consistent with the governor's orders extending certain provisions of the open meeting law, every effort will be made to allow the public to view and or listen to this meeting in real time. If you do not have a camera or microphone on your computer, you may use the following dial-in number 1-301-715-8592, meeting ID 851-0724-4815, passcode 945839. Please only use dial-in or computer, not both, as audio feedback will distort the meeting. This meeting will be audio and video recorded. In compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, this location is accessible to people with disabilities. Wakefield provides reasonable accommodations and or language assistance free of charge upon request. If you are a person with a disability and require information or materials in an alternate format, or if you require any other accommodation, please contact the town's disability coordinator, William Rock, town engineer, at 781-246-6308 as far in advance of the event as possible. Every effort will be made to grant your request. Advance notification will enable the town to make reasonable arrangements to remove an accessibility barrier for you. 1. Continued hearings. 2. 25-19, 25-20, Mark DeRosa and Aaron DeRosa. Application for a variance under Article 10, Section 190-66 of the Wakefield zoning bylaw to construct an addition onto an existing single-family dwelling. Application for a determination and or finding with respects to a continuation and extension of non-conforming uses under Article 9, Section 190-50 of the Wakefield zoning bylaw to construct an addition onto an existing single-family dwelling. The property is shown as map 34, lot parcels 78 and 79 of the assessors map, and is located at 7 Pittman Avenue. 3, 25-21, 25-22, L&L Development LLC and Wakefield Salem Street LLC. Application for a special permit and site plan approval under Article 6, Section 190-32 of the Wakefield zoning bylaw to allow a 13-unit attached dwelling complex on a portion of the premises. Application for a special permit under Article 6, Section 190-32.1 for reductions and or alterations to the dimensional controls which are required under Section 190-32D and Table 2, Table of Dimensional Regulations of the Wakefield zoning bylaw. The property is shown as map 29. Lot parcels 01A and 01A1 of the assessors map, and is located at 154 Salem Street and 158 Salem Street. Board of Appeals.
Thank you, Joe. As is our custom, we have a continuation in a matter that's going to also matter under other matters that's not moving forward tonight. Going to read those in to the record in a letter dated today, November 20th, from Attorney Brian McGrail, relative to the case at 7 Pittman Ave, case number 2519 and 2520. Please continue this. I'm sorry, if you could mute yourself. Thank you. Please continue this matter until your meeting on December 11th, 2024. So I'm looking for a motion to continue the matter at 7 Pittman to our December meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing, seeing none. Regular voting members. Chip, Chip, you're muted. Dave,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Mickey,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Matters continued. Under other matters, number 4 on our agenda, 200 Corner Power Parkway is not going to move forward. That's a discussion of signage and community space. And while we're on other matters, we might as well take those up. I think there's 3 other matters that should go very quickly, and then we can allow those folks to move on with their evening. So with that, we're gonna, using the chair's prerogative, we're gonna take up 184 Water Street, 1 Sylvan LLC, discuss signage approval and certificate of occupancy. Who represents, is someone here to represent 184 Water Street?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Attorney Brian McGrail.
Please move forward.
Thank you. For the record, Attorney Brian McGrail representing 184 Water Street, 1 Sylvan LLC. And with me tonight is Safario Funicetti, who is the owner of the property, and also Kimmy Seraton, who is the proposed tenant at the property for which we're going to present signage. To refresh the board's memory on this, it's a mixed-use project that was approved by the board. The construction is pretty much complete, ready for occupancy, and we'll talk about occupancy after the signage real quickly. In your decisions, your board reserved jurisdiction to approve signage on the building. So that's why we're here tonight. And to set the table on that, the proposed tenant is an entity, is a business called Life Love Cheese. I guess to set the table on what the signage is, I'd like to just have Kimmy, if you could just give the board a very brief description of what your business is. You have to unmute.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Kimmy Seraton, the owner of Life Love Cheese. I've been operating a mobile cheese shop for the last couple years. I attend the Wakefield Farmers Market, and I'm opening my first brick and mortar store in Wakefield at 184 Water Street. It'll be a cut-to-order cheese shop with charcuterie accompaniments, beer, wine, spirits, and sandwiches and snacks to go. And we're looking forward to our first shop in Wakefield.
Great, thank you, Kimmy. I want to point out this is a really unique shop for Wakefield. I think this is the kind of business that we've strived to get here. It's going to be a destination business for other people from out of town to come to Wakefield. As Kimmy mentioned, they're very popular, but this is their first, and it will be currently their only brick and mortar store. So it's really going to bring people into the downtown area from the surrounding communities. And I'd be remiss not to mention Erin Kakinda, who is our Economic Development Director, because if it were not for Erin, this would not be happening. Erin sought Kimmy's business out and sought my client out and put them together and, in essence, place this business in this property. So thank you to her for just a great effort in doing that. And without further ado, I'd like to talk to you about the signage that we're proposing. And if I can share my screen, Mr. Chair. And what you're going to see, I'm going to point out, we're not seeking all aspects of this. And if you approve it, as we normally do, we could draft a letter and carve out the sections that are appropriate that would be sent to the building department. So this first slide that was submitted has nothing to do with signage being requested. It just kind of shows what the inside of the building might look like, but would have no jurisdiction. The first item that we're looking for on the building facade facing Water Street is a bracket sign that would light up. And you can see it's kind of got a bite out of the cheese, really unique. And because, people go by this at a decent rate, this would kind of like, instead of just seeing it on the side of the building, on the front of the building, it would allow them to identify it and see it if they're looking for this. And we'll get into the size of this as we go on, which is right here. It's relatively small. It's only 14 inches tall by 16 inches wide. The sign itself doesn't light up, but the letters do. And Savario can show a little bit once I'm done where that would be located. So if you could just place that as a placeholder until we get to that. This building, if you recall, has two frontages. It has Melvin Street and Water Street. So under our sign bylaw, it's entitled to have an accessory building sign on each street. And when the board approved the project initially, you approved the gooseneck lighting, which is already there. So this really fits in nice. And what's being proposed is a simple, straightforward sign, relatively small. It's only 8.5 inches tall letters, individual letters, and 9 feet long. And this will go on the Main Street side, I'm sorry, the Water Street side and the Melvin Street side with the gooseneck lighting.
Brian, can you remind us how big the sign band is? How deep?
Savario can. Savario, you here? You can unmute.
I am, yeah. So we actually provided the dimension of it's keep in mind it's not a traditional sign band. What we've basically done is lined up goosenecks. So this sign is scaled based on the width available from the goosenecks and the light spread of those gooseneck units.
But what is it, Savario, from that brown underneath the window to the brown underneath the sign?
You want height is what you're looking for?
Yeah,
I can
because
pull up the
you're
dimension.
saying your letters are 8.5 inches, yet it's filling most of that space, which is fine. I just want to know what that is. Is that an accurate depiction?
It should be, yeah. It should be.
I'm going to go on while he's looking at that, if that's okay.
Yeah, you can keep moving.
You can look that. So that's what's being proposed. This is kind of just a bigger detail of the letter. As you can see, they're individual carved raised letters. And this is something we're not looking to do, so that's in the package. So that's not included. So that would be carved out if you approved it. And that's in on the signage on the building, except for window signs, which I'd like to touch on. Window graphics.
Yeah, go ahead. Call up
Yep.
if you can.
I am still loading. Just taking a minute. Taking this time to load. So as you know, we're allowed 10% on the windows. What we're asking the board is to consider this an entire window, if you will. And if you do, it's well under 10% instead of considering these individually. And so this is just a detail of what's up above. These meet the 10% requirement, and then the door just has the logo on it with the hours of operation.
What are those up above? Just are they applied? What are they?
They're applied.
And are they silhouetted? Are they filling the whole glass area? Or are they just like a pen sketch?
So yeah, they're like
I mean,
Kimmy,
unless you can bring one up like really big so we can understand what it is.
yeah,
Yeah, I can. They're just going to be the outline of these icons. So just the white portions. So basically like a pen sketch if that might
White
be the
portion
closest.
on the glass. So
Yeah.
the glass is glass, not black.
Yeah. The black is glass, so
Okay.
it'll be basically an outline of like one's like a cheese wheel. So just an outline of a cheese wheel.
Yeah.
There's like an outline of a cheese wheel, an outline of bread, outline of a beer glass, an outline of some more cheese. We're all about cheese. Another cheese wedge, another loaf of bread, a salami, a wine glass. So they're just little outlines that will kind of highlight what products are in the store.
First of all, who's not all about cheese?
It's our thing. My motto is eat cheese, be happy. I don't know if you've been by the store.
Oh, I
So,
have.
If you haven't been by the store,
getting-
there's those right now they're orange with
Yeah,
white. It won't be the orange, it'll just be the white portion of that icon.
And that's what they're requesting. Severio, were you
I
able
wish I
to?
could see those icons bigger, Brian.
Yeah, I'm trying to, for some
I know
reason,
you're trying, but
I'm gonna try to do it again. Hang on, Chip.
Well, he's doing that, Severio. Do you have the answer to Chip's question?
Yeah, you know what? I'm looking for a set that has it in there, but I can't seem to find something that's going to give us the exact measurement.
So you got the
Bear
size
with me.
that you're showing us is 8.5 inches. So it's looking to me, just from a visual, that you've got 2 or 3 inches on top and bottom.
Yeah, I
think
want to
that's
say it's
right?
I want to say it's about 12. And that's probably plus or minus an inch, I would say.
So you think the representation is pretty close
Yeah.
to,
It definitely is pretty accurate.
No.
and Brian, how are you measuring this square footage? Not the window sign, but the sign in the sign band?
You're talking this?
No,
Chip,
back on the
in the
building.
in the sign band,
Life, love, cheese.
we're creating an imaginary box around it, if you will.
Yeah, okay, and how many square feet is that?
It's not even close because we're entitled to 50 square feet and it's again 9 inches by 9 feet long.
Right,
it's
so I didn't think it came close.
not even close. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's below is that hours of operation?
Yeah,
Oh, the door, sorry.
there you go.
And how many doors are there? Just the one?
So is it
door?
one entrance or two entrance to this unit?
Just one door. Yep. The other door you see on the front facade is actually the entry to the building.
The residential.
Well, that's good, Brian. I can see the depictions a little better.
Is that better, Chip?
Yep, thank you for my old eyes. Well, first of all, my humble opinion is that this is extremely creative, tasteful, and appropriate for the building because it's kind of sharp and new. And the only thing I hope is that this brings huge success to the shop.
Right, any
Now, I
other
told you
comments?
guys when you were all pressing me for an answer that it was something exciting. Didn't I say that?
Yeah, so you were right once.
So, any other comments or questions from the board?
No, just I agree with Chip. Looks good, tasteful, gets the job done. We love cheese. Looking forward to having you open your shop.
Okay, Brian, you want to move on to certificate of occupancy then?
Yeah, so Severio is ready for his landscaping is done. We're just looking to have a board member designated to go out and do a site visit to sign off for the building inspector.
Okay, I can do that. Unless someone else wants to jump in, I'm happy to do it.
My problem is I'd only be able to do it at 5 in the morning or 7 at night.
Yeah, those hours
got-
aren't going to work for me.
Yeah. Or Saturday.
I
I could do Saturday, but Tom, if you can do it, that'd be
Yeah, I
great.
could probably do it Friday afternoon.
Okay, we'll be in touch, Tom, to set that up if that's okay.
Yep.
That's all we had on that.
All right, so we probably need to take a motion on the signage then, guys.
Right, so it's the sign plan. I'm just getting. Oops, zoomed out too far on that one. So it's both packages, right? The neon studio.
And the
Oh,
window-
let's just, while you're finding that, David, let's just talk a little bit about the hours that the lit sign is gonna stay lit.
I think it's already covered in the bylaw, Chip, that it can't be lit if it's not open.
Well, we've done, I mean,
And
but I don't know that we've always done that. If you're not asking for anything different than that.
No, I don't think we are. I mean, Kimmy, you're gonna shut the sign off when you close, I would assume?
I hadn't fully thought that through yet, but yeah, the intent would probably be to shut it off when we close or
Yeah.
shut it off. I mean, I can set it to hours to shut off at like 9
Yeah.
p.m. so they're not on overnight.
What the bylaw says is signs shall not be illuminated between the hours of 11 PM or 7 AM unless
Right.
related to an establishment operating between those hours.
Right, so
I meant that I was gonna turn them off at 11 p.m. and let them come back on at 7 a.m. That was what I planned all along. I'm pretty sure.
perfect.
What are your planned hours of operation? As long as we're talking hours, just so we're aware.
Currently 11 to 7, Wednesday through Sunday. I do plan to move that on to Tuesday through Sunday, when we're up, after we're up and running, and we'll see how evenings go. I know that there's, a ballpark next door, so we'd like to stay open if there's games happening, so maybe, if there's games out, we might stay open to help get people snacks. It beats orange wedges.
So Dave, on the motion, given the bylaw, I don't think we need any condition or anything like
We
that. I
don't.
think we can
Oh.
just approve it.
No, we were given two sign plans though. So the one with all the outlines and the renderings is Boston Retail Solutions. Looks like 11/15/2024. The Neon Studio, I don't see, is who, are they the sign
gonna-
company?
What I was planning on doing is taking the cut sheets out of that and incorporating them into an approval letter from the chair to the building inspector.
Okay, because otherwise we'd have to, yeah, what sheets
Yeah,
apply.
because
which
there's
ones
some of
don't.
those sheets, as I said, that are not applicable anymore, so.
Right,
So I think we've done that before, Mr. Chair. I think we can do that pretty
That's not a
pretty
problem.
efficiently.
okay, so it's the selected signs from the sign package that we've agreed are part of the plan and
Yeah,
they'll be noted in the decision. Okay,
correct. And attached to it.
attached to it, yeah. Okay. And then after your site visit, Tom, then we'd issue a letter or standard letter to the building inspector saying they've satisfied the conditions of the board, assuming they do. And again, the rest, to issue the permit is really his jurisdiction, right? It's stating whether they've met the conditions from this board, right?
Right, he makes the ultimate decision.
Correct.
Yeah, but I would respectfully ask that the board authorize the chair to do that correspondence if he's satisfied, so it doesn't have to wait a month to come back to another meeting.
Yeah, Dave, while you put that in your motion.
Because they want to open.
We've done that numerous times.
Okay. I'm wondering, one motion or two?
Let's do one.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the sign materials presented this evening for the sign band, the bracket sign, and the window signage, door signage as presented to us, as well as authorize the chair to, upon completion of a site visit and satisfactory completion of the board's conditions for the special permit, issue a letter to the building inspector stating as such once that site visit has completed.
Seconded.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion, comments from the board? Here and seeing none, regular voting members, Dave,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Chip,
Yes,
Mickey,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Good luck with the business.
the only question I have real quickly is all the temporary stuff you have up now will be down before opening, right?
Yeah, we'll be taking that down before opening and switching to the other ones when we've got them.
Perfect, thank you.
Brian, reach out to me
Forward
on
to
the.
seeing you guys.
Yep, thank you. Brian, reach out to me on the C of O.
I will.
All right, next other matter up, 474 Main Street, site plan pre-application meeting requesting a waiver or modification of requirements for a detailed site plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's me also, Attorney Brian McGrail. This is a property at 474 Main Street. It's the old Mystic Industries, which you can see the icon on it. It's behind, I believe it's Sweet Bay, right near where the Molise building is going to be redeveloped. This property was recently purchased by a client of mine who was eventually going to redevelop this property in time. But currently, what he's seeking to do is to rent it out it currently has some warehouse use in it, and he wants to rent out a portion of it to someone who teaches archery to youth, to young people. And the person who would do this has set up and done this in Wakefield before, renting the Civic Center in various locations, but they want to set up a more permanent location. It's a great spot for it, and it really will serve the young people of Wakefield. There's a lot of interest in this. And you can see this site is made up of this building in the back, and it also owns the loading area in this area. And most of his all of his customers really are drop-offs. People are just, either coming from the middle school or they're being dropped off and picked up out on Main Street. But in any event, this requires a special permit from your board for a recreational type use. So it will be coming before you, but we did not see any, we respectfully request that you find there wouldn't be a need for a site plan here, because there really isn't anything to give a site plan of, because it's really just a building. So we're not asking you to opine on what we're looking to do or approve that, but just say, yeah, you can apply for the special permit, but you don't need to present a site plan with it.
Okay, members of the board, any questions, comments?
So Brian, the principal use in that building you're showing would be this archery. You're saying it's
Correct.
currently partially warehouse use. It
Yep.
would change to this other use.
Correct.
And what's on the left side?
This
The
here,
darker roof?
this is all one building. So part of it was like office within there, and then this was like warehouse.
But would all become part of this new use?
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll give you the detail. I mean,
Okay.
when we apply for the special permit, because I don't even know the details on that, Mr. Hatfield. I just know what they want to do.
Okay, but it's for that whole building back there behind Sweet Bay.
Correct.
Okay.
Brian, what's in the front? Is that just the loading zone?
Yeah,
Asphalt?
this is loading right here, Joe. Yep. For
What
the
about the
business.
other side? Is that part of
Same
it?
thing.
That also? Same
Yeah,
thing?
these things are connected.
I'm assuming you'd be cleaning that up or just leave it, or
This property is going to get redeveloped probably in the next 2 or 3 years. So,
and what's
And-
that thing in the front? Is that part of it too? That,
Sweet Bay.
no,
oh, that's Sweet Bay. Oh, okay, yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
this is its own individual lot. How this ever got developed back in whenever it was is amazing, but it did.
Snuck in there.
It'd
And
be
there's a
nice if
kitchen,
this was all-
the
it'd be
kitchen
nice if
place
this
on
was all
North Ave.
part of it.
The kitchen place on North Ave is moving into Blanchard's. So that other building on the right, unrelated, but just a quick aside. Yeah. Saw that in the paper. But makes sense to me. I don't see the need for a full site plan review on this, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else? No, I agree. They're coming back for the use special permit, so I really don't see why we wouldn't do this, so.
No, if they're not changing bathrooms, changing none of the infrastructure, I'm good.
Yeah. All right, let's get a motion, then let's keep moving.
So, Mr. Chair, I move that we grant that we waive formal site plan review for the proposed use at 474 Main Street. The applicant will come back for a special permit, but we waive the need for a full site plan review as part of that process.
Seconded.
All right, motion's been made, seconded. Any further comments or questions from the board? Seeing none. Regular voting members, Dave,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Chip,
Yes.
Mickey?
Yes.
I vote yes too. All right, that's moving on then, 200 Water Street. Discuss certificate of occupancy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Attorney Brian McGreal, for the applicant on this. This is RD&D LLC. It's 200 Water Street, which is the new home of Cataldo Ambulance, the ambulance provider for the town of Wakefield. You probably have driven by the building. It looks, I think, really good. They're in the process, or they were in the process of closing out to get their final certificate of occupancy. And their as-built plan showed that some of the grading in the parking lot is off, and it's going to have to be corrected. So they're going to proceed to do that. We might have to come back to you for a minor modification on that at some point. But in any event, what we're looking for now is for you to authorize the building inspector to issue a temporary certificate of occupancy, because with the winter months coming, Cataldo is mandated to get its ambulances inside. The garage, the building is ready to go. They really want to move in. It will be a benefit to the town. It's a safety issue for the town. They're not in a position to get the full CO because of the reasons I just stated. But once that is completed, then they will come back for the full certificate of occupancy. So we're just looking for authorization, a letter to the building inspector authorizing a temporary certificate of occupancy.
Tom, could I suggest that this is almost next door to where you're gonna be Friday afternoon?
Yep.
You might have time to do both. Actually, if Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, or Tom, if you see that they've satisfied all our commitments, then you can just leave it up in the building inspectors. You can determine that everything that our requirements have been met. Right, Brian?
Yeah, there's a couple of items that, when we do this regrading, we might have to come back to you for modification on the, on a little bit of the landscaping that was part of this. So that's why I don't want to misrepresent it to you, that I don't think we're in a good faith position to ask for a final CO from you at this point.
Yeah, let's give them the temporary, it's a state mandate that the ambulances have to be
Yeah,
inside.
yeah.
the
The
months.
building looks great. I don't know how bad the grading issues are.
And Brian, what's the temp CO allow you to do to fit out you get people in the building?
Operate.
Everything, use the building.
Allows you to operate out of it.
Then what does the full CO do?
Same.
The problem being is with a temp, as you well know, Dave, they only have to, if they don't satisfy it, they can get shut down and have to move out.
So they could begin to operate at their own peril if there was some reason that.
Well, yeah, I mean, they for the marketability and the long-term viability of the property, they have to get the final CO. They won't be able to finance it, which they, so, it's in their best interest to do that. They want to get the final CO. They need it.
Okay.
But they also need to temporarily get in there to house the ambulances with the bad weather coming.
Right.
Some of this grading, they might not be able to do till the spring with the weather. So.
Yeah, at some point, hot top plants are gonna shut down.
Yeah, no, when we've done other temp COs like the bank, I think Santander was like, so people could get in there and start training, but they weren't actually running the bank yet, right? They needed the full CO to operate, but they were getting people in to train and get them in the office, that kind of thing. So that's why I just want to clarify what the temp CO gives you versus the full CO. And
Well, that was an issue, to refresh your memory, that the building inspector at the time felt that the building wasn't ready for full occupancy because of some life safety that still had to be done. So he didn't want them to be able to operate.
Right.
This is different, and the building is completed,
Yeah.
and ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just get it's in everyone's interest to get the ambulances in there and operating. So,
Yeah.
I don't want to belabor this. Let's take a vote and get this done.
All right. So, Mr. Chair, I'll move that we issue a letter. So is it contingent on any site? So we're not doing that. We're just issuing a letter stating what? It's still the temp CO is up to the building inspector. So what are we issuing? You're going to write him a letter?
Yeah.
Stating that they've satisfied the conditions of the board?
Yeah. Well,
No,
with the exception of the grading, right?
Yeah,
So that's why I'm
But
just
the
not entirely
drainage
sure what
should-
this motion
yeah.
is. I'm sorry.
Why don't
Because,
you just why don't you just authorize the chair to communicate with the building inspector to issue a temporary certificate of occupancy?
Yeah, without signing off on that your conditions are met, we're not looking for you to say
Right.
that. So say you're not, you're not acknowledging your conditions are met, but you have no issue with a temporary certificate of occupancy at this point, subject to you corresponding that you are satisfied with your conditions prior to the issuance of a final.
yeah, okay. All right,
Uh,
Mr. Chair, I
I
move
do
that,
have,
Yep.
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. This is my first Board of Appeals meeting that I'm attending, but I did have a question about that property. I
Nathan,
don't know
I'm
if
not,
this is the right time to voice that.
it's not.
Okay.
This is another matter. We generally don't take public comment on these things. This is a pretty simple pro forma thing. State
Okay.
mandate that those ambulances have to be covered indoors during winter months. This is the ambulance service for the town of Wakefield, so this board's not ready. I don't want to speak for everyone, but I don't think this board's ready to put that at risk in any way, shape, or form. So, if you have a
Alright, Mr.
comment, I would just suggest that you send it into the building department and we'll get a hold of it. There's an email address for the Board of Appeals on the town's website.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the guidance.
You're welcome. Dave?
Mr. Chair, I move that we authorize the chair to correspond with the building inspector and indicate our recommendation to issue a temporary CO at his discretion, that the property isn't in full compliance of our order of conditions yet until we do a full site visit when it's all completed. But we're recommending it at this time a temporary CO at his discretion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further comments, questions from the board? Hearing, seeing none. Dave?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Yep.
yes,
Mickey?
Yes.
I vote yes. Matter is unanimous. Okay,
Thank you.
going back to continued hearings. First up, case 2410, the residences at Nahant LLC, 119 Nahant Street. Mr. Panos, are you here?
Good evening. My name for the record is Jason Panos, practicing law at 246 Andover Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, representing the residences at Nahan LLC, the applicant in the reference matter. I'm joined by Scott Cameron from the Moore and Cameron Group, who I'm going to ask to share screen, and Scott Thornton of Vanessa and Associates and Stefano Basso of SV Design.
So, Mr. Panos, just going into this,
Yeah,
I apologize. I should have sent you an email, but we have not received, I know you were at the TAC at their latest
Yes.
meeting. We've not received correspondence from them. So
okay.
we're not going to be discussing traffic or anything that happened at that until we fully get it. I usually try to give you a heads up so you don't bring your consultants
Got it.
when we need to discuss something, but I missed that. So
I appreciate that. I just wanted to be prepared to generally discuss the tenor of the meeting and that type of thing, but and I didn't want to be caught shorthanded and not be prepared if it were the board's pleasure. So
Sure,
that's
fair
fine.
enough.
Scott, you have the rest of the night off.
All right, thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you. Unless you need to be here for 32 Nahant Street.
I don't
same there.
think so. I think it's the same condition, right, Mr. Chair? So
Same.
It is, Scott. Enjoy your evening.
Sounds good.
thanks so much.
So you jumped the gun a little bit. We were at the TAC on November 15th, and before that, we were at the subcommittee meeting of this board on October 18th. And since then, we refined the plan that we presented to you, which is a substantial change from what was presented in the initial application to the town and the board. And I'll just give you a small summary of what those changes are, and you can see them on screen, but obviously we changed ingress and egress access to and from the site from that two-way access to a centered access off Nahant Street. There's two-way access around the entire building that can accommodate emergency and police apparatus. We offer 1.5 parking spaces per unit ratio, an increase from 1.3 initially proposed. There's a little more green space and open space presented. We're proposing a density reduction from 100 units to 80 units. General improvements, which Scott Cameron will go into in more detail, to site circulation, parking, addressing some of the safety concerns, all, in our opinion, safety concerns expressed by the TAC and the board. A building height reduction from 5 floors to 4 floors, modulated massing by pushing the building back from Nahant Street by over 70 feet. You may recall the building was about 10 to 12 feet off Nahant Street as originally proposed. So through you, Mr. Chair, I would like to turn it over to Scott Cameron for a more thorough presentation.
So, Mr. Cameron, with the, my only comment would be that, again, we need to hear, I understand that you've tried to address safety issues. I just caution you that we haven't heard from TAC as whether or not these are effective or actually do address. So, you know, try to keep them as your opinion and not represent them as fact. And because that is not resolved with TAC for the members of the board yet.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Scott Cameron with the Morgan Cameron Group, 66 Elm Street in Danvers, Massachusetts. And I certainly fully agree with you. This is a design concept we're looking at here. This is not a fully engineered plan, and the hope tonight and what this plan is to obviously present the changes that we're contemplating, looking for feedback as we hopefully move into putting those technical plans together that the TAC and the town engineer will be reviewing more thoroughly. So I will keep this at the 10,000 foot level. Jason hit on most of the big points, but what we did is we kind of took a full relook at the design over the last 2 months. Obviously, we had some conversations with the owner of the town, making sure utilities, technical, stormwater, things like that. We don't expect any issues with any of that with these changes. That will all work and actually improve a little bit because we have created some more open space with this concept. But the main thing here is we centered the driveway in a single curb cut, more or less where the existing driveway is now, and eliminated the double curb cut. If you recall, there was a two-way on the east side, and it was a one-way in on the west side. And in doing so, we moved the building back. It's now 71 feet to the lot line, and there's another 10 feet or so to the actual pavement, so close to 80 feet setback from the street. The circulation around the site is all two-directional, so we eliminated the kind of dead end situation where you approach the garage and then you have to come back around. So you get two-way circulation around the entire site. 24-foot aisles, driveways that will accommodate the fire apparatus, emergency vehicle apparatus. I didn't draw out all the individual spaces, but you'll see, this is a concept drawing. So we're trying to get a feel for this before we go through and actually put the technical drawings together. What you will note is that you'll see in the background in gray, this is the prior plan that you had seen. So I wanted to make sure you saw kind of where the driveways were before and where that former building was. You can see the change. The new configuration is the brown and the older one is this gray. So it's a pretty big change in stepping that back. And you can see in relation to the adjacent two buildings, we're behind the back corners of those buildings now. As you come around to the back of the building, the former design had the solid waste internally, and there was some concern about how that would all operate with the pickup. We've put this in an area as far away from everything as possible. Adjacent properties in the subject in an outside location that would be fenced in. This allows for an easy pickup opportunity and exit out. Also is a larger space, so less frequent pickups will be needed with this setup here. There'd still be 2 garage access points, so one here to the front portion and one in the rear to get to the interior garage spacing. We're still proposing some compact spaces in here, efficiency. We are providing the handicap parking spaces, and we're providing, and we do expect, we had a drop off before. We still have a dedicated drop off right at the main door, and we do expect to allocate visitor parking spaces. We haven't flushed that out yet as far as where and how many, but we do anticipate having some dedicated visitor spaces on this as well. The transformer visually from the street still in the same location, so it's kind of tucked into an area where it will be concealed on all abutting sides. It's a pretty good elevation change where it's below the adjacent properties here. And through the middle of the property, these brighter green areas are open space, open spaces that we can plan for really any number of things to service the residents of the building. These can be sitting areas, park areas, a dog kind of play area, passive kind of open space opportunities in these bright green spaces, which we didn't have much of before. In total, the unit ratios, you'll notice, the 8 3-bed, 14 2-bed, 31 bed and 28 studios. We're a little heavier on the smaller side. Stefano will get into that in a moment when he presents the building information. We've removed a story from the building. So the prior had a 5-story. This is all 4 stories. So we've reduced the height of the building. The building footprint is smaller. It's down to 21,000 square feet in footprint area. And, again, the parking ratios at about 120 spaces. We're expecting 47 plus or minus garage spaces and the rest on the surface. And that's a 1.5 parking space to unit ratio. It breathes a lot better here. Obviously, we reduce the density from 100 units down to 80 units. That's the big change, a 20% reduction there. And that really helps us breathe a lot better. So I think from a site perspective, again, this is a concept plan. We really wanted to target the areas of concern. A lot of it had to do with traffic circulation, how tightly designed the site was before. And I hope what you can see here with the green and the openness and the positioning here that we've accomplished a lot of those updates to make the project fit better. I think maybe I'll turn it over to Stefano at this time so he can show you kind of some 3D representations of the property and what this looks like now versus before. If that is okay, if you're ready for that, Stefano.
Sure thing. Hey, good evening. Stefano Basso with SV Design, offices at 126 Dodge Street in Beverly. Here we have the 3D renderings. This is the view looking west, heading towards downtown. On the left is the currently proposed design with the building pulled back. On the right is the most recent renderings of the street that we had presented previously. You can see the big difference in terms of pulling the building 60 feet further away from the road. The sight line on the building is now back behind the adjacent home, whereas before, because of the bend in the road, it kind of stuck out a little bit further from the adjacent homes. For this round of concept design, we've maintained the same exterior design of the building. Overall, the sort of shape and configuration of the building is similar to what was proposed before. We've kind of squashed it down and kind of shortened up the leg of the building going back from the street. So we still have a similar garage, similar layout in the front of the building there. We've just moved it back the 60 or so feet to allow for some parking out in front of the building. Can switch over to the next one. So the view heading away from downtown, looking east, You can see the same effect. Current proposed on the left, previously proposed on the right. And again, with the smaller setback on the right, the building is visible in front of the adjacent home on this side too. You can also see in this view the fifth floor on the view on the right. The fifth floor was originally visible above the roof line of the adjacent home. So with the fifth floor going away, you won't be able to see that anymore either. The front portion of the building is 4 stories, so now we've maintained that height back across the entirety of the building. You know, from this point, probably 3 lots down from the property, the building's barely visible from the front. You do get little peaks of it kind of between buildings, depending on where you are on the sidewalk or on the road, but largely obscured. This layout also allows us to potentially add some more plantings. So that's something we can look at in terms of design, where plantings are appropriate, type of plantings and screening. So that's the kind of detail we look forward to getting in more conversations with.
Okay, is that the entirety of your presentation tonight? With that, open it up to the board. Comments, questions from the board. Mr. Panos, were you going to say something before I turned it over to the board?
No, it's just for housekeeping, I'd just like to wrap up when you're ready to talk about scheduling and moving forward, but I am eager to hear.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that at the end of this.
Okay.
Board members, comments, questions, reactions.
Mr. Chair, Mickey Feely, obviously we're waiting on the TAC interpretation of the changes. It's still too big. I appreciate that you took a floor off and that you've moved it back and that you've taken 20 units. But I just think it's too dense for this site. It's my.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Where are we with the parking? Did you mention that? Now that you went down to 80 units, and I'm assuming you have a lot more parking spots.
Yeah, the ratios.
From 1.3 to 1.5.
Oh, so you've got to the 1.5. All right. I
Yeah.
mean, I appreciate you moving it back. I like the fact that you shrunk it and moved it back. You're at 80 units down. What was the very beginning? Where'd you start at? 120? Just curious.
During the mass housing process, yes, 120 went down to 100, which was what was actually applied for to this board, and now we're down to 80.
All right. I'm just curious what traffic's going to come back with, but I do appreciate you guys moving it back. I think it looks a lot better. I like the fact that you have parking in the front now too, right? Is that what I saw?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll leave it at that.
One thing we do maintain, I just want to point out, is we do maintain that fire access through all sides of the building. And I know a prior comment at TAC by the fire chief and the deputy chief were that they hardly ever see access throughout the entire site. We maintain that. That was very important early on, as it was expressed by the fire department, and it's important to us as well.
Yeah, so Mr. Panos, I'm gonna wait to confirm that with the fire chief. So I'm trying to stay away from those issues that we cannot.
Okay.
For you to make representations when the fire chief hasn't weighed in.
Sure.
That's the point I was trying to make at the beginning of this dialogue.
I appreciate that. Do we expect some new town memos? I know the TAC was waiting for more detail to push their review forward, and they're meeting they're not sure when they're meeting, but they think they may be meeting either December 13th or December 20th. That hasn't been firmed up yet, but they're certainly waiting for more detail from us. And of course you are too.
Yeah, and I'm assuming Mr. Cameron's meeting with Mr. Renault on site issues based on these changes as well. And that's a normal course of how you would proceed here. So I would
Yes,
expect the DPW would have updated memos in other town departments. Before I go to the
Okay,
next board
great.
member, you know, while we were touching on parking here, 1.5, how many visitor spots do you have?
As Scott mentioned, we're still working that out. We're still flushing that out in the site plan. So
Okay.
that's yet to be determined, but Scott, can you inform that a little more?
Yeah, so I guess from a practical application of this, the 3 beds and the 2 beds typically are going to be looking for 2 parking spaces each, and that's 44 spaces. And then the singles in the studios, they can be rented with 1 space. So that's 58. So 58 plus 44 gets you to 102. And we're proposing 120. So we have up to 18 additional spaces that we can allocate for a number of different things, whether that is a dedicated visitor, we keep 10 of them per visitor, or whether if on a apartment by apartment, somebody wants to rent an additional space. So there's ways to program that, but we expect no more than 102 parking spaces would be needed for the units, and the other ones are all bonus. So we have some flexibility there.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, Tom, I would, if everybody else is done, to me, I'm still waiting for TAC. I think it's very important regarding the safety and the traffic. They've started to meet some criteria, but for me, it's all about safety. I still think the project is too big for the site. I think it's too big for Nahant Street. I think Nahant Street's a scary street to have this size development on. I don't think it's appropriate for the neighborhood. All of the comments that I've made before still hold true, even at 80 units. Yes, it's better, okay, but it's still inappropriate. The fact that something becomes better doesn't make it appropriate. It's still 80 units. If it had started at 80 units, I would have been thinking that it was too large. So I still think it's too large. We've met numerous times, we've made progress, but, I don't know. I'll be curious to see what TAC thinks and says. I didn't listen to their meeting, but I would think they're still very concerned about a project this size on Nahant Street in a 1 and 2 family home neighborhood. It's not right. It's inappropriate for the street and for the neighborhood.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is Dave. Chip, you stole my thunder. A lot of the same comments. Again, I don't know what the right number is at the end of the day, right? I think a lot of us thought 100, yeah, too much. 80 probably isn't it either, but I don't know what the right number is that makes this a safe, viable project for this area. But it really does come down to public safety. Looks like the applicant tried to address specific points by making specific changes and not taking the holistic view of all the feedback from this board and all the abutters to this thing is just way too big. And whether that was 50 units, 40 units, 30, something drastic. And so 80 still too much in my mind, as others have said, for this site, for this street, for this neighborhood. Yeah, we want to hear from TAC. But it still just feels it is still too big. So we'll see. We'll get more feedback, but again, I think we've made our feelings clear all along, and progress, but not there yet, in my mind.
Yep. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, can I just make one more comment?
Yeah, please do.
Mr. Panos, have you addressed any of the blasting or chipping that may go on in the back? Does this help it or hurt it by pushing the building back? anything
I'm
about
going to
that?
defer to Scott Cameron on that, but
It's a
Yeah,
little.
I'm just gonna defer to Scott.
Yeah, it's a little early. I would say just it's probably status quo in regards to that. I don't anticipate being able to make a lot of elevation change, but I might be able to bring up the back a little bit, which is where the biggest cut is in that area. But I think for all intents and purposes, it's about the same. And we haven't, should we, if we go forward into the technical drawings, I'll be able to vet that out a little bit further and see if there's any other way I can reduce it. But there is bedrock on the site. Removal of that is going to be necessary at some point.
Just keep that on your radar. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, there's no other comments or questions from the board. I'll just add that I agree with what has been said about safety concerns and size. And even with this, I understand the site plan, but given the pictures that were shown tonight, I have no idea what this looks like from the Hunt Street. I don't know what this building would look like if I was standing out in front of it on the Hunt Street. And that's not okay. How can we approve something that doesn't even know, we have no idea what it looks like right now. So there's a lot of deficiencies in your presentation tonight, in your presentation materials. Given the month that we had, I expected more. But so be it, it's not here. And I'm going to be very interested. Again, I'm not going to talk about TAC, but I did listen to the hearing and they had some very interesting things to say. I'll leave it at that because I've asked the applicant not to discuss it either, so I won't violate my own rule here. So if board members are set, I'm going to turn it over to the public for public comment, unless someone wants to add something. Okay, seeing that this time, if there are people here that are like to provide some testimony on what you saw tonight, please use the raised hand function in Zoom and I'll recognize you.
Mr. Chair, I don't have a raised hand. It's Paula Gardella, 10 Wilson Road.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Paula.
Again, thank you, Chip Tyrell. Thank you, Mr. Hatfield, all of you. Yes, common sense rules here. The structure is too big. Regardless of what TAC says, and I know they are very, very big on safety, this building does not fit into the neighborhood at all. It never will at that size. You're dealing with ranch houses, single-family homes. It does look better from the street, but the neighbors are not looking at it from the street. It's in our backyards. And with the lighting and the noise and everything else from this building, as one of my neighbors put it, it's going to be like Fenway Park on Coolidge Road, Wilson Road, Nahant Street, Stock Ave. It will be like Fenway Park. It's an industrial building. It looks nothing like the neighborhood. It doesn't fit. And that's about it. Again, I'm a broken record. It has to be cut in density before it's going to work. One other question we don't have to answer tonight. You're talking about pushing the building back 70 feet. I'm looking at the space now. I'm not sure where that 70 feet is coming from. There's wetlands back there. They're not conservation wetlands, but they're wetlands. And if you're pushing that building 70 feet, it would seem to me, again, this is the Conservation Committee can look, you're getting very, very close to wetlands in the back. So I don't know where this 70 feet is being pushed back to. And that's about all I have tonight, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Conway, I saw that your hand was up and I know
Right. Yeah, Joe Conway, 18 Wilson Road, a neighbor and a butter to the property. I agree with the previous speakers as far as the structure being 4 stories high. It's too big. You're putting a 4-story building in amongst 1 and 2.5 story homes. It would be completely surrounded by 1.5 to 2.5 story homes at the most. The other problem with the proposal tonight, or the proposed building tonight, moving it back 70 feet, I think it was Scott Cameron brought up, we talked about the drainage in the back of the building on the other proposal, the bigger one. And by moving the building back 70 feet, prior to this, moving it at 70 feet, he talked about, having test, holes dug and drainage retention areas in the back. By moving the building back 70 feet and putting those retention vaults in, is the building going to be moved over to the retention area, those storage areas for the stormwater? Those are the vaults that I'm talking about. Where's the water go from there? That's a problem. And then there again, one of the previous speakers brought up about lighting and the 4 stories, moving it back. The people on Wilson Road in Coolidge, we're looking at again, like the previous speaker said, Fenway Park or the Green Monster. The building's too tall. That's the other question is at some point would be the relocation of the dumpster, where they put the dumpster was be down in that southeast corner of the proposal that was presented tonight. That's closer to the wetlands, but it's also closer to the homes. If you got an 80 unit apartment complex there, 80 units generates a lot of trash. As we know, I'm worried about rodents, worried about the truck coming to pick the trash up, the noise. They say, oh, we'll make sure that the truck doesn't come till 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. That usually doesn't happen. They usually come at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning with those large 10-wheel trash trucks. And that's another issue that I think is going to have to be addressed at some point. But there again, the building is too big. I agree with you with what you said, that we can't even get a picture of what the building looks like by moving it back to 70 feet. But those are all the concerns I have for tonight.
Okay, thank you. Next up, I see Victoria Turner.
Hi, Victoria Turner, 16 Wilson Road. So repeating what at this point most people have said, but better does not mean good. We have made it safer. We still haven't made it safe. We may have made it a better look from Nahant Street, but as someone looking at the back of it, we've made it worse. I have a huge concern about the blasting. There's a lot of rock back there, and I am seriously concerned about what moving it back 70 feet is going to do to the houses on Wilson, on Coolidge, on Stark. Moving the dumpster outside and closer to our homes and backyards, moving it basically into the Conway's yard, that's going to cause rodent problems. Who's paying to deal with that? It's just, it might be better. It's still not good. It's still just a money grab, and it's ridiculous to propose it for this neighborhood. I appreciate the board's time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, I see Mimi Miller.
Hi, Mimi Miller, 5 Hart Street. I have to echo what everybody has said. This is a residential neighborhood, and to put 80 units in where just trying to get down Nahant Street through the light right now without all of those extra cars. And as far as what I heard Mr. Pano say about the dumpster, he's saying it would be bigger so we could let it sit longer, which I think defeats the purpose. You would want more trash collection rather than less, because as everybody said, there will be rodent problems. It is not built for this neighborhood, and I have to ask the committee to take all of this into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I see Courtney.
Yes, hi. I'm Mike Gerleo, Courtney's husband, 20 Wilson Road, direct abutter. This presentation seemed extremely deceptive and a waste of time. As a direct abutter on 20 Wilson Road with 2 young kids, just seemed very deceptive the way it was presented. And I call for the board to vote on this ASAP. That's all you're going to hear from this point forward from this crew is bullshit. And that's all we've ever heard was bullshit. I pardon my French. That's it.
Take it easy on the language. Thank you.
Pardon my French, but everybody's sick of it. I call the board to vote on this ASAP. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Carl Jana.
Yeah, a couple items. I'm echoing the
the deceptive part. The whole thing's been a bit disingenuous as it's gone on. You know, the 3D video rendering picture, you know, shown from like two angles of the building, you know, 10 blocks away with a microscopic lens. Why can't I just have a 3D rendering of the front of the building, right from in front of it, showing the heights of it? Because it's too big, obviously. So if I show it from down the street, it's going to look a lot better in everybody's mind by looking at it. So the disingenuous part is terrible. As well as I think a couple of different times the developer was supposed to be here at a meeting, and one time I heard he was out of the country, or another time he was somewhere else. But has he shown up to a meeting yet to present anything? I'm wondering about that. I don't understand why he wouldn't be here. That's happened over and over again. That middle entrance, I don't think helps things other than trying to make more parking spots. I think it's less safe than two entrances. At least you can enter from, you know, east-west at a different time, as opposed to having everybody going into one spot, bottlenecking that up. So, again, it's gone on too long, and I hope that, you know, this can come to some resolution. But for now, I hope that this can get worked out. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen McMaster?
Hi, Karen McMaster, 25 Nahat. Just again, we're all repeating the same thing, but if you notice, the concerns are growing. We have 83 participants that are on tonight. It's just not this neighborhood. People drive up and down Nahant Street. I think I counted walking, we have 106 structures on Nahant Street, whether they're single families or not. And between both projects, you want to add 120. The street has nowhere to grow. There's nowhere to grow the sidewalks. There's nowhere to make accommodations for any of these sites. Again, I'd like it to move forward, but I understand we have to go through the process. But again, it's too big, and they knew they were starting high and they were going to go low. It's still not low enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Going once.
Tom, I didn't get Carl Jana's address.
He's on Hart Street.
Thank you.
Going once, twice, and with that, closing public comment for this evening. Back to the board. Pleasure of the board. Dave, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
Yes, I am. This project has been extended through the end of the year, right? And we have one more meeting. So process-wise, do we just need to discuss, you know, between now and then, we would hopefully hear from TAC and have an opportunity to digest that information and maybe get some discussion, or maybe Lieutenant Anderson back, potentially.
I'll talk to him.
But
Yeah,
even beyond that, there's still potentially several other items we haven't even gotten to, which we typically get to, right, with these projects, because we've sort of deferred them. But where do we stand time-wise? I mean, I just don't see the end of the year being feasible unless we get to the 20th, we don't have a snowstorm, and we actually can meet on that day. I'm sorry, the 11th, right? Isn't it December 11th?
I believe it is.
So it's only a few weeks out, right? I don't know. Where do we stand time-wise between the applicant and us?
We have one, you're correct. We have one more meeting. I'm done begging for more time. If they want to continue to negotiate and engage, that's on them. If they don't, we'll bring it for a vote on the 11th. I've been saying, you know, we've been at this for a year. And, you know, they didn't truly engage in any of these types of moves to make this safer, to make it fit into the neighborhood more, till way deep in this game. So they either need to extend, or we're going to vote on the 11th. It's that simple. So
okay,
I will talk to Lieutenant. I'll talk to Lieutenant Anderson about getting the memo and seeing if he's available, or and the fire chief are available, and Mr. Renault for the 11th, if the memo is going to be ready so that we can discuss it.
And
okay,
Tom, I would only say that if an emergency does happen and we don't have a meeting on the 11th, we do have time for a special meeting prior to.
The end of the year.
Meeting to, we can
They
figure
have
that out.
extended through December 31st, is
So
my
we
understanding.
we got enough days to figure it out.
Yep.
Okay, so with that, I guess, Mr. Chair, I will move that we continue this matter to our December 11th, 2024 meeting.
A second.
Okay, any further discussion? There's been a motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing, seeing none. Regular voting members, Dave,
Yes.
Joe,
Yep.
Chip,
Yes.
Mickey,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Matters continued to the 11th. Mr. Panos, if you want to communicate anything in the meantime, if I hear from Lieutenant Anderson on timing of the memo, I'll certainly share that with you.
That would be great. I'm just a little concerned that they're not planning to meet until December 13th or the 20th. So we can refine that time and get a better understanding for mutual timing. That'd be great.
I don't think they have to meet to distribute a memo unless they've requested. I
Okay.
haven't seen the full meeting unless they've requested a lot more information from you.
They are looking for more detail.
Okay. I will stay in touch with both Lieutenant Anderson and you about timing.
That'll be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Moving on, 32 Nahant Street, LLC. I thought I saw Mr. Haverty here earlier, but he might have heard what we said about the TAC.
Oh, he's
and
here.
Called it a night.
He's here.
I'm not seeing him.
Hear me?
Oh, there you are.
Good
Audio
evening.
cutting in and out. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks
that
for
better?
finding him, Dave. Yeah, that's better.
I was lost
Yeah.
in the wilderness.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know what we have to talk about because we're gonna wait for the TAC. If you've got something you want to say, don't want to completely
So-
shut you down, but
No, that is fine, Mr. Chairman. I do think we do need to wait to hear back from the TAC. I know we've also granted an extension to the end of December, so you've got plenty of time to schedule another meeting and respond. I did want to point out, at the last meeting, we had stated that we were willing to submit revised plans that flipped the entrance and flipped the building on the site. And we did submit those plans to the TAC, but it came to my attention this afternoon that for some reason they weren't submitted to the board at the same time. So we will get you those plans tomorrow. So you'll have ample time to review them for the next meeting. Again, the TAC did get them, did meet, did discuss them, but if you would prefer, we won't characterize what they said and we'll just wait until.
let's just wait. And then if you can
December.
get those plans to us, that obviously would be helpful in a timely manner.
Yep, we'll get
yeah,
them to you tomorrow.
Okay. And again, as I said to Mr. Panos, I'll be in touch with Lieutenant Anderson and we'll stay in touch with you on the timing of their memo. So we can be coordinated.
Perfect. Yeah, I know they weren't waiting for any additional information for us. He just
Okay.
indicated, that he will get you a memo discussing their positions.
Okay. Fair enough then. With no new information tonight, I don't really think we have to open it to public comment. I think we know where people are anyway. So guess I'm looking for a motion just to continue this to our 11th meeting on December 11th.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made second. Any questions or comments from board members? Hearing, seeing none. Dave,
Yes.
Joe,
Yeah.
Chip,
Yes.
Mickey,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Matters continued to December 11th.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank you,
night.
Mr. Haverty. Yep, you too. All right, next up, case 25-18, Terry Casey, Brian Casey, looking for a determination or finding for property at 15 Muriel Avenue.
Mr. Chair, I think you inadvertently skipped 33 West Water Street.
I did just that. I apologize. So before we open up that case formally, let's go back to case 25-3, 25-4, 25-5, 33 West Water Street LLC. My apologies for that.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Attorney Brian McGrail, representing the applicant on this again, 33 West Water Street LLC. With me tonight from Phoenix Architects is Andrew Jones, and John Ogren is on here also, who's Site Civil. We submitted some new information to the board based on our discussions with our liaison, board liaison, Mr. Tarbell, and comments from the board at the last meeting. And the goal was, we talked about shifting the building over as you face it, shifting it to the right to create some open space, patio area, outdoor space, and lose one parking space. And I think the board thought there was value in doing that, depending on how we could tie the building access to that outdoor space and how our landscape architect could incorporate it, perhaps with some screening from the residents next door, with some landscaping and fencing. And I think we were able to do that. We submitted a plan showing that, which I'm going to share. And then when I'm done going over this landscape plan, I'll hand it over to Andrew and he will explain how this works with the building. So.
Yeah, Brian, if I can jump in for 1
Yep.
second as well. So we talked, the neighbor to the right is concerned about these big trees, and we looked at them. It's almost tough to tell from the ground there exactly whose trees they are. But we did determine that they could stay given this design, and that they would be protected from construction, so that the concern to the neighbor to the right was that they didn't get taken down. So I think that can be adhered to. And then we talked about both streetscape and this protection on the side for this, what we would call public area. So that's what was discussed. You can see the big trees to the right silhouetted there. And then in a condition or whatever, if this was to move forward, we would see a whole designation of protection and how to handle that. That's all I got.
Okay.
So if I could continue on, what we've got is we've got the proposed patio now to the left side of the building. We've reduced our parking count by 1, which we talked about, which the board thought there was value in doing that, especially considering the proximity to the train station here. And we've put a really good buffer of landscaping. That's what the board, we had Jim Emanuel take a look at this. And he's revised the landscaping plan to put a variety of shrubbery and plantings in here. And then also the board had said, gee, maybe consider a fence here, but not like a typical, white vinyl fence, maybe something that really fits in nice. So Jim came up with 3 different options. I kind of like option 2, that, these would be wood fences, and they would really, fit in with that landscape area over there without having a stark impact on anything. But what the board also wanted to know, I think you saw some potential value with this open space, and I think Mr. Hatfield had asked, well, how's it going to work with the building, so residents are able to readily access this area? So with that said, I'm going to, if I can, Mr. Chair, hand it over to Andrew Jones to go over that.
Yeah, please do.
Great. Andrew, can you take it, please?
Absolutely. Thanks, Brian. Good evening, board members. Andrew Jones, representing Phoenix Architects. Pull up the plans. Something weird is going on here. Give me one moment. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, here we go. So, as you can see, unit count stays the same, front rendering stays the same. The biggest adjustment was the building shift. So this is showing the building a little bit further away from the existing home to the left-hand side. This context study stays the same. I'm gonna go to the next page. This is something Kazumi had brought up. So this is a second floor plan, just looking at that rear house in the back and window alignment. So we spent a little time on the second floor adjusting some of these windows just so it wasn't a clear view from one of the units right into this area. So you can see here, we really tried to push unit 3's windows to the right-hand side and the left-hand side to avoid direct eye contact, and also just starting to look at furniture layout and stuff like that to avoid any of those issues. On the first floor, as Brian was stating, with the new patio here, there was some adjustments to the hallway just to get a direct exit out to this new amenity outside. So we carved in a new hallway, and then we also readjusted unit 1 based on this new hallway to make sure everything's working and complying. Besides that, as you can see, these small circles, the one other thing we explored is just showing exterior lighting. So there's 2 types of lighting. I'll go to the last page first, just so you can understand the 2 differences. One just being a recessed 6-inch canvas lighting fixture, and the other being McGraw Edison 5500 lumen parking garage lighting, flush lighting. So I'm going to go back to the first floor just to kind of show the thoughts on this. There'd be 2 of the 6-inch recessed in the front entryway just to light up the building from the front a little bit. We're showing 3 recessed 6-inch in the center here. Then we're also showing 3 6-inch recessed over the front of the parking garage. Besides that, that's when we switched to the other parking garage lighting. So as you can see, what we try to do is 1 per parking space, 1 up here as well, and then 6 total just within the drive of the parking garage. So that's really it. Besides that, not much has changed. Elevation's all the same. As I said, we did shift a couple of these windows just to not have direct view out to the house in the rear. And that is it. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Andrew, how's ventilation in the parking garage happening?
It's just gonna be natural. There's enough penetrations where.
So where are the penetrations?
So in this elevation, you can start to see there's 1 right here, 2 right here, basically wherever these columns don't fall. I'm gonna go to the floor plan.
What are those? I mean, I can't tell from your elevation. Are they louvers? Are they faux panels and screen? What are they?
Nope, it's just columns. There's the base, which is the brick veneer, and then it's just open between these columns.
And what about in back?
Same thing. So
So
you'll
this
see
is
here,
just
this is an
open
opening.
space to the neighbors.
Yes.
Can you show that rear elevation and front elevation again so we understand that?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't show well.
Yep, I understand. So right here would
So
be
those
an
are just
opening.
openings. That's just all open.
Yep.
And as well in the front is just open.
Open, 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 open in this transition.
So people see tops of cars, roof racks, ski packages, and then at night, if the lights aren't controlled well, they get spill of light out that.
It is open, correct?
Okay. Is there any option not to be open or to fill it with a screening or to somehow disguise? I mean, to me that then, because you'd be looking through, that almost would look like the top 2 stories are sitting on pillars almost. And just open underneath, almost floating there. It doesn't seem to have a whole lot of, I guess I didn't understand that before, so I apologize for kind of bringing it up late, but it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of substance to the top 2 floors and the bottom, that it's not very, if I look at that elevation, other than the doorway, it doesn't look connected at all.
So what we can do is start to add siding, and we can definitely look at doing some sort of louvers or screening here for sure. One thing to know is like the stairwell right here, this is covered, this isn't open. This is also the stairwell, so that's covered. I think, you know, we can
I
definitely
think we
look
need to
at.
understand this better.
Yep, we can definitely represent that better with maybe adding some siding in these elevations so you can fully understand what's open versus not.
Faux windows, something. Because at this point, those top, I mean, anybody else can weigh in, but to me, those top two floors now that I understand that it's open, just seem to be floating in midair.
I agree, Chip. And again, isn't it a safety thing for the residents? I mean, I think these multifamilies we do typically, it's somewhat of an enclosed garage with a door, and there's, you know, safety for the cars and people just coming up and helping themselves.
Can you go back to the colored the green version we were?
Yep.
I'm not sure
like
I was
this-
getting it either. Those look green. Those look filled to me. I didn't get it either, Chip. Yeah.
This looks like an elegant project, and now that I know that's just see-through or looking at elevator shafts or stairwells, it's not.
Well, the stairwells on the right are covered. What you're looking through is you're not seeing green, you're seeing the people's back, either car tops or the house behind you.
Right. Those are trees or something. They just happen to be similar green, right? Or
Yeah.
whatever the render.
Which aren't there.
I'm disappointed more than anything else because it looked great when it was green. And I agree with Chip.
I think we can definitely go in and fill that more and look at like a louvered system or something so it feels fuller and the view through it won't be as extreme as it is right now.
And even the entrance where the cars drive in, like, again, do you want to consider a door for safety and, you know, privacy, and just something to consider, right? A lot of these have something like that. I don't remember one. Have we done one where there's sort of open parking in a multifamily?
No, it's always had screening.
I think there are some in town that are open. I think this is definitely more open than, you know, some.
I think you need to
you know,
think
like the
about
Galvin across from the
Well,
Galvin.
Yeah, Bennett
is very
Street
similar.
has louvers and an open, I don't think there's a door, but it has like a louver system, Chip.
It's a louvered system.
Yeah, it's not wide open, but it's
Right.
similar to this, but it's screened.
Is it Salem Street?
I think you need to think about these bays. I think you need to think about the bays out back for the neighbors to be looking into a parking lot and a parking garage. I don't think that's right. So I'm sorry to bring it up now, but I really didn't understand it before. So
Well,
thank you.
I think it's a valid point, and I don't think you need to apologize because I
Well,
agree.
I don't like to think
I'm
that-
being honest because, you know, I always try to be. And when you look at the green down below, as Mike Feely said, you kind of can't tell. So, so we'll look at that. I think it's a point well taken.
Yep.
And Andrew, you probably said it in a previous meeting. It probably just didn't resonate. I just don't think we got it, but.
Well, I don't think you got it because you really can't tell. So,
Appreciate if you take a look at it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Point taken.
Let's let Kasumi's had her hand up. Let her weigh in.
She's too polite, Tom, obviously.
Thank you. So Chip just reminded me, is there any columns in the garage area? I don't think I see any columns.
So we have not structurally gone through the structural engineering of it, but there may be some that fall through. Obviously will be within, you know, if they are, we'll make sure that they're not protruding 6 inches more than typical in between parking spots. It's still something that needs to be structural engineered, but if they were to fall somewhere, you know, I'm throwing some areas where they'd probably land, which is within this alley.
Yeah, I think you just need to know that.
I mean, we can throw some in just as a rough idea of where they'd land, but until we get this structural engineered, it's kind of just a guessing game.
That might make it difficult for the cars coming in and go. Anyway, thank you for looking at the windows on the second floor. That looks better. makes me feel better.
Absolutely.
So that ADA unit, can you just move the toilet so it's not in the correct position of the toilet? It should be 18 inches away from that wall that has the grabber and the toilet paper holder.
Yeah, we can look into that. I believe there
Okay,
is
that's
18
just
inches
minor
there,
things.
but yeah.
And then the garage lighting, I don't think you need that many lights. Those are really like high illuminate light, usually like 25 feet apart. So you might want to look at it with, or you might want to ask the manufacturer like how far they should be for the
Okay.
spacing. I think you have too many. And then another comment I had is on the parking outside on the top right corner. It looks like if there's a one car parked on facing east, I don't know if you can fit to the spot facing up, facing north. I don't know if you can bring up the site plan.
I don't have it, Brian. You want
I
to
got
swap
it
that
up.
real quick?
Can you see it? I tried to bring it up.
Yeah, so where you have the L shape, the bump out, you have the 7 LBS 12 CX and so
This one?
yeah, so if somebody is parked on that spot, you have the arrow. Can somebody else park on the one below looking towards the big trees?
This one?
That looks like, or like if somebody's parked, they both parked, can either of them can come out from the parking spot?
I think so. I mean, there's standard size spaces in 9x18. So, John, I don't know if John is on. John, did you make it on here?
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, they're standard 9x18 spaces. There shouldn't be any problem in terms of maneuvering. You know, in the aisle width that they have to back out, it's 24 feet in this area. Obviously, it's a little bit more as you get towards the garage, so there's plenty of room for them to back out and head out towards West Water Street.
Okay, yeah, it looked kind of tight. I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from board members? Well, if people are feeling good, there are a couple of to-dos, right? Certainly looking at the garage and so forth, but if folks are feeling like this is moving forward, you know, we should probably, you know, touch on a couple of things at the next meeting, Brian, if you can, you know, probably need a small O&M and think about the conditions around the tree protection that Chip mentioned, how you might memorialize those. Anything else, board members?
We would need paver selection in the package for
Yeah.
the patio. We would need a fence selection if we were going that far. Oh,
Yeah.
Yep. And I mean, yeah, we should probably decide or make a recommendation.
don't be polite, just jump in.
Yeah. So Kirsten, go ahead.
I know I've missed a couple of meetings, but in the beginning, we had talked about a shadow study for the impact on the neighboring home. Was that addressed? And that's why the building was moved to the right? And is there still a concern of the impact?
No,
I think
I think we,
first.
yeah, I think we covered all that. So I think we're okay with where that is right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't recall actual shadows, but we did do a context. We did look at those other buildings, and that's where that the back building, there was an adjustment made to pull it away from that a little bit and move it away from the left side, create that patio space. So
and move the windows around. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think we ever actually pushed for a full shadow.
No, because it's only 30 feet tall. I think at the end of the day, we decided 30 feet tall, you know, the shadow study wasn't necessary.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else though?
So are we finalized, Mr. Chair, through you, Brian, with like engineering, traffic? We waiting for a final letter or anything? Are we good there?
Traffic we got.
Yeah.
Okay. So final landscape, lighting,
Well, you got landscape
materials.
now,
Yeah,
if you're satisfied with that. And, you know, he gave 3 fence selections, you know, you can contemplate those in your package. You don't need to decide that tonight, or you can have something else if you're not satisfied with those.
yep.
That-
We should decide by the next meeting, I would think, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Just make a recommendation. So that's the one that ends up in a.
So
final
we'll,
plan.
we'll work on that louver system or something, with some detail, because, and then, you know, maybe if, with the permission of the board, I can start just framing some conditions for, you know, for your consideration.
Yeah.
Wasn't there
And then I add to them, but just to kind of, to get them going, if you will.
Yep.
wasn't there a financial thing as well, Mike? Mr. McGrill?
Yeah, from TAC, correct.
Right,
Yep.
so that would be part of a
Yeah,
condition.
part of the conditions.
Yep. So just starting to capture them, we'll make sure we potentially get them all.
Thank you. It's a good term. Start to capture them. Yep.
But Mr.
Okay.
Chair, so you think we're caught up on everything? It's just these few loose ends potentially?
Yeah, I think we're getting, you know, I think we're getting close, so I want to start to
I do
to
say,
move forward.
say we're close, but now that we looked at what that screening potentially might or might not be, that could be, wow, you hit it, or it could be not, you didn't come close.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we're
And,
gonna, we'll work with Mr. Tabell on that, because he's still our designee, so maybe we can run some things by him as we proceed.
I'll jump on it, Chip, and I'll reach out sometime next week to discuss.
Thanks, Andrew. Come up with some concepts.
Sounds good.
yeah, I think next Thursday is a good day for Chip if you're looking for him. All right, with that, I'm gonna open it up to members of the public. Is there anyone here from the public that wants to comment on this application? If so, please use the raise hand function in Zoom. Okay, hearing, seeing none. Back to the board. Pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chair, I move that we continue this matter to our December 11th, 2024 meeting.
Second.
Motion's been made second. Any further comments or questions? Mr. McGrail, you have your checklist of what we're looking for?
I do.
Okay, with that, Dave,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Chip,
Yes.
Mickey,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right, on now, I can go back to the case I mistakenly called forward, case 2518. The Casey's looking for determination or finding at 15 Muriel Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have that case also. For the record, Attorney Brian McGrail representing Kerry and Brian Casey, who are here with us tonight on the screen in my bottom left. And their property is at 15 Muriel Avenue. They have an attached garage, which they're looking to put a second-story addition on. The relief that they're seeking is a determination and/or finding under section 190 50 A of the zoning bylaw to construct that addition. So all they need on this is a determination and or finding, and there is no variance request for this. The purpose of the addition, they're not putting an accessory unit, but Kerry's father is moving in with them permanently, and this will create, as you'll see from the floor plans, a bedroom area for him within the house. So if I may, I'd like to share my screen and go over first the architectural plans and then the site civil plan. So this is the house at 15 Muriel, the existing single family. You can see the garage is attached. It's a Cape style home. Please note how the garage is actually lower than the house because of the topography. There's a retaining wall that the garage sits below. And okay. So this is just the existing basement floor plan of the house. Not real relevant. This does to show the garage on the right-hand side, the existing condition. Currently, the first floor of the garage is a garage, it's a storage area and a bath in this structure portion of the house, as well as a bar area because it's a built-in pool. So this is all part of the house, and part of it's garage and part of it is living area for the house currently. So this just shows the roof. And this is the existing conditions, and we're focusing on the garage, attached garage aspect, because that's where the addition will go on the second story. So obviously, in the bottom left, this is the front elevation from the street, and you've got the rear up above it. And then existing left is this is where it connects to the house, the garage. And then the existing right is which faces the neighbor to the right-hand side. What's happening here, and you'll see it on the site plan, this area where it says stair is an addition to the house. And that is because the building inspector, we've met with him, wants the stairs that provide access up to this within the house. He does not want them on the outside. He's requiring that. This is just a demolition floor plan, which we're just removing a window, which really isn't relevant. So this is the addition that's going on for the stairs. And this is what's being proposed up on the second floor. So there's a bedroom, a bath, and a living room area. No kitchen, as I mentioned. This is not an accessory unit. And the downstairs will stay the same, except the stairs will be part of that. So this is the elevation with the addition. This is the front elevation, as you can see. Up above is the rear elevation. This is the elevation facing the other part of the house where it connects. And this bottom right is the elevation that faces the neighbor to the right. You can take note that there are no windows being proposed in order to preserve some privacy for the neighbor on that side. So where the living area is up above here, there'd be no windows on this wall. These two windows are in the garage. They're already existing today. And these are just really not relevant. These are more building permit, but that gives you a flavor. And now let me share the site plan, if I may, show how this lays out. Okay. So this is the site plan. You can see the existing conditions with the garage, and this 12-foot, the dot is where the addition would go. You please take note that the setback currently is 10.3 feet, and the addition is going to match that. So that's why we don't need a variance, and we just need a determination or a finding. We also took a measurement from the neighbor's house to make sure that we comply with that component of the bylaw. It's 21.2 feet and 21.6, so it meets the 20-foot requirement in that regard for separation. As far as the nonconformities go, the lot area, as you know, the required in this single-family residence district is 12,000 square feet. This is a legal nonconforming lot at 8,050. Frontage required is 100, again, legal nonconforming at 85. Front setback is 20. It meets that requirement today and will continue. There's no change in the front setback. 20 required, 22.4 from the front. Side setback on the left side required is 15. It's currently 9.2, and that is going to stay the same because nothing's happening on that side. On the side to the right, again, 15. The existing is 10.3. The proposed is 10.3. So once again, no change. That's why I think you could just do this with a determination, but I always request the finding aspect too as a belt and suspenders, as you know. Rear setback 25 feet. It's currently 31.9. It will be 25.2 with that addition, but it meets the current zoning setback requirement. In the height on stories, 2.5 are allowed. The existing is 2 and the proposed will be 2. So it's actually below the number of stories allowed in that district. And the maximum height in this district, 35 feet is allowed. The existing is 23.1. And it will be the same. And building coverage. Required is 30%, and existing is 18.4. 19.4 is proposed because of that addition, but again, it meets the requirement. And open area required is 40, existing is 69. It will still be at 68, which will comply. So that is the zoning table.
Ryan, what's the date of this plan? Because this is not on the package we received.
I sent this in on Friday, Dave.
Did I miss it, Mr. Chair?
might
Did
have.
everyone get it? I got the
Yeah,
revised architecturals. Did I miss the site plan?
I have it.
Dated
So,
11/5/24.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, I must have missed it. Okay, so we do have it with the
Yeah.
zoning table. Okay,
yeah,
November 5th. Thank you.
Yeah.
yeah. And the big news, Dave, is that there's no exacerbating any of the non-conformity, so it's
Well,
pretty
understood.
straightforward.
I just want to make sure I got the right plan. I'm contemplating what's happening soon.
Yeah. So I would respectfully suggest that what's being proposed does not increase the non-conforming natures of the structure. And even in any event, if it did, it's certainly not substantially more detrimental. And I would respectfully request the board to make that finding.
All right, board members, questions, comments?
Yeah, my comment would be, Mr. Chair, that this is a pretty straightforward finding. Specifically, more importantly, that they took thoughtfulness to not put any windows towards the neighbor's side. So that even if they're, the height doesn't make it not for the finding. So findings are pretty low bar. And I think that as Mr. McGrail has walked us through, there has been no greater exasperation of the non-conformity. So I think this is pretty straightforward. I'm in favor of a finding. And they gave us a lot more information than they normally do.
Yeah, all we really need is that zoning table, quite frankly. But it's appreciated that they shared more. Anybody else?
Agree. Pretty straightforward. Appreciate the info, just so we can understand what's going on the site.
Yep.
I'm good. Looks good.
Okay. All right, hearing no more from the board, I am going to open up for public comment. Is there anyone here from the public that wishes to testify regarding this application? If so, please use the raised hand function in Zoom. And I'll try my best to find you. I see Ted Dooling. Ted, you're on mute. If you could unmute yourself.
Thank you. Ted Dooling, 11 Muriel Ave. So we would be the property that would be to the right of the proposal. So if you're looking at the plan A108 that shows the right side elevation, we're facing that, the one where there are no windows on the second floor that was just referenced. These are good neighbors. We admire and respect them. We think this is extremely large what they're doing here, but we're being very cautious about that because they're the kind of neighbors everybody would wish they would have, is what I'm getting across here. I'd like to, but you need to understand the wall size or the floor space increases from 455 square feet to 989 square feet. It's 170% increase. That's off their own plans, A105, the gross floor area table. I did my own calculations of the wall size, which directly impacts us. It faces us, and we look at it, and we're out there studying to understand how much of an impact this will have on us. It's 10 feet 3 inches from our property. Currently 38 feet 2 inches by 9 feet 4 inches. It's going to be 44 feet 10 inches long by about 18 feet 8 inches high. So it's going from a 356 square foot wall to an 836 square foot wall. That's 135% larger than the existing wall. So that's substantial. That does have an impact, and it does change the character of the neighborhood from our perspective substantially. The existing garage, which was permitted as an addition in 1952, it's public records, was 22 feet in length. It has an extension on it, everything behind it, which was added, but there's no record of when that was. It was certainly before the current owners. But that added 15 feet to it. So it's already a very long structure for a garage standard. And now with this additional 6 feet 8 inches, it's 44 feet 10 inches long. That's longer than any house on any side in our neighborhood, front, back, left, or right side. So it's out of character, and it's something that we have to adjust to and accept. So my other concern, well, on the new site plan, which is done November 5th, it shows 10 feet 3 inches which is correct. The Plan A 105, proposed site use plan, that still has an old measurement of 10 feet 5 inches. So that's incorrect at this point. Inches matter here at this point to us. The plot plan that was just done also shows the northeast corner of the owner's lot, the outline of a concrete slab that was installed in June of this year, I think in preparation of this. It now appears from their own survey that that concrete slab that was installed is 8 inches to a foot onto our property, with like assurances that that would be removed and the ground restored to its original condition for that. The windows, we understand there are no windows, and we appreciate that. We noted that, and that is helpful, but it doesn't mean it can't be added in the future by them or anyone else. I don't think there's anything that says that can't be done. So just understand, this is a very large scale project by the small scale neighborhood and small scale of the homes here. My other thought was that this is 23 feet high. Our roof line is 21 feet high. There's nothing that shows an elevation or a rendering of that addition in reference to the main dwelling. So I don't know what the height of that is.
Mr. Dooling, with all due respect, what's before us is a very narrow question. Does adding this exacerbate the nonconformity on the lot? And from the zoning table, that's all we really need. That's what we were talking about. You might have heard the conversation from the board. This does not exacerbate the existing nonconformity. That's the only thing before us. Like the slab you mentioned means it's not within our jurisdiction. We're making a ruling based on a very narrow definition. I know if you're not doing this all the time, people get frustrated by it, but that's all we can rule on. And those are the parameters around which we're going to adjudicate this case.
Okay.
And it's very, I got to tell you, and I appreciate your concern. And, you know, if it's my house, I might have the same concern, but this is really as close to pro forma as it gets. So while I'm sympathetic,
this is not architectural review, unfortunately.
Right. The length of the wall, the height, all of that, you know, doesn't really come into what we have to consider.
Well,
so
then let me ask this: the Article 9 non-conforming uses 190-50A. It references such reconstruction, change, extension, or alteration should not be substantially more detrimental than the existing nonconformity to the neighborhood. And these things I was pointing out with the exclusion of the concrete slab. I apologize for that. I think that they do have a detrimental effect on the nonconformity of the neighborhood. But in any case, having said all that, we don't like this. We're not offering a formal objection because these are our neighbors, and this is what we're going to have to live with. But I wanted to point out the size and scope of this because I think it is detrimental, more so than the existing nonconformity to the neighborhood. Certainly from our perspective.
Okay, I
hope
appreciate
you can
that.
understand that. Thank
I
you.
do. Thank you. All right, I see Rebecca Anderson, you have your hand up.
Yeah, hi, I'm also in a butter on the property behind this property. And I have to agree with Ted. I appreciate what they're trying to do, but quite frankly, I hear what you're saying, if you look at straight up, they're violating the setbacks on the side, it's 10.3, it's not getting worse. But I would ask you guys to consider that, yes, they're not making that setback worse, but by making something that is so tall next to that setback, I do feel like Ted has a really good point that it is in fact worse. Even though that particular setback's not changing, being such a large structure so close to the property line and out of the character with the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else that wishes to testify on this application? Going once, twice. Okay, I'm closing public comment. Back to the board. Pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I am in sympathy with the neighbors, but our purview is 10.3, and it's not getting worse. We're not in we can't make a judgment based on our architectural, what's happening. Is the zoning being exasperated, and is the nonconformity being increased, and it's not. Height meets within the zoning requirements. Length, that meets the 25-foot setback. We literally could have done it with just a site plan and no architecturals, because that's what we're allowed to look at. So it doesn't matter how we personally feel, it matters on what we can adjudicate. So.
Okay, anybody else?
Nothing else to add.
Okay, with that, we're gonna need a motion to either vote up or down, so if someone wants to put that forward.
Mr. Chair, I move that we grant, make a finding and determination pursuant to section 190-50A of the bylaw that the proposed construction changes, extensions, and alterations at 15 Muriel Ave, based on the site plans from Serato Land Surveying dated 8/29/24, revised 11/5/24, and the architecturals from Rise Architecture dated 4/8/24, revised 10/21/24, shall not increase the existing non-conforming nature of said structure. However, if one were to determine that there would be any increase in non-conformity of this structure, that we also find that those would not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conformities to the neighborhood. That's my motion.
Motion's been made. Anyone ready to second that?
Seconded.
Okay, motion's been made second. Any further discussion from the board? Hearing, seeing none. Regular voting members, Dave,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Chip,
Yes.
Mickey. Mickey, you're mute.
Yes.
I vote yes, that's unanimous. Okay, moving on.
Thank you.
On to new hearings. Case 25-21, 25-22, L&L Development LLC and Wakefield Salem Street LLC. 154 Salem Street and 158 Salem Street. Mr. McGrail, is that yours?
It is, Mr. Chair, thank you. If I may proceed.
Yeah, please do.
Thank you.
We're just gonna do an overview tonight, right? Just a quick
Yes.
introduction of the project. Okay.
Yeah, we plan to give you a pretty good introduction of the project tonight. And I'll get into that. For the record, Attorney Brian McGrail representing L&L Development LLC and Wakefield Salem Street LLC. who are the owners of properties at 154 Salem Street and 158 Salem Street in Wakefield. With me tonight is our Nick and Rocco Leo. They are the in the ownership group of both of these properties. So the ownership groups of both of these properties are represented at the hearing tonight. Also with me is Rich Williams of Williams and Sparagus. Rich is our site civil engineer. And Nurgis Bunellis is also here. He is with KDI Architects. He's the architect on the project. As you mentioned, as is the norm, we look at this meeting as an initial introduction meeting tonight to familiarize the board and the public with the project. And as you know, there'll be subsequent detailed meetings on various subject matters to follow. So with that, I am going to share my plan quickly, if I may. And Rich Williams will go over this in much more detail, but I just wanted to talk to you about the fact that there are, on this project, there are 3 boards that are involved, actually 2 boards and a commission, because there's different aspects or pieces to this. And those are your board, the planning board, and also the Conservation Commission. So this plan gives you an idea of the location of the properties. You can see 158 is here, down in this area. There's currently a 2-family house located on it. And then 154 is a much larger piece that goes back. The interesting part of this also is this is a split. These 2 lots, 154 and 158. Again, this is 158 over here with a house on it. Kind of this is like the lot line. 154 is vacant land. Take note that it's a split zone lot. Part of it in this area is general residence. Over here is single residence. And out back where this kind of V is out back where the project that is before you for your jurisdiction, the attached dwelling complex is in the industrial zoning district. So I thought it might be helpful just to kind of lay that out. The reason the planning board is involved in this project, which is unique to you, is because we're putting a roadway in. And this roadway A comes in. This will actually create the frontage. We're actually creating 4 lots. We're creating lot 1 where the 2-family house is. We're creating lot 2 where a house will be built. And we're creating lot 4 over here where another house will be built. And then we're creating lot 3 out back, which is where we're proposing the attached dwelling complex of townhomes, which is the jurisdictional element of your board. So the planning board has jurisdiction to put the roadway in, approve the roadway going in, and then creating the lots, and then your board has its jurisdiction on permitting the attached dwelling complex on lot 3 in the back. So I'm going to switch to another plan that will kind of depict this a little bit better, more full. And Rich will get
Brian,
into
those
this.
other lots wouldn't be our jurisdiction because they could be developed by right.
That's right. Yep.
It meets setbacks and all the
Yep.
dimensional
This
stuff.
one, now the town planner raised an issue on lot 1 because this is 158, and this is where a 2-family house is. So this is a legal nonconformity. So if we decide, we're either going to rehabilitate this house or we're going to raise it and reconstruct it. If we raise it and reconstruct it, we would probably have to come back to you for a finding on that, but that's to be determined on where we go. So you might have jurisdiction on this if we don't put a 1-family house on it. But that will be an application at a later date, depending on how we decide to proceed. This really lays it out. That the reason I show you this is the landscape plan that's part of our project. And this just kind of shows you more what's happening here as the roadway comes in, and this is where lot 3 is out back, and it continues further out back, and that's where the townhomes are. So, and Rich will go over this in more detail with you. What we're proposing back on lot 3 is an attached dwelling complex, which, you know, your board is used to seeing either garden apartments or multifamily And this is a little bit different because this is attached dwellings, kind of also known as townhomes, if you will. This is somewhat unique. It's a new product that really hasn't been brought forward. Most of what you've seen in the past 10 years have been, multifamily or mid-rise apartment buildings, anywhere from 4 to 5 stories. And my client decided to go a different direction on this. Actually, Lot 3 has approximately 63,000 square feet. So the density permitted back there in the calculations with a special permit is 52 units. And at one time, I think it was back in 2012, this was actually before your board, just 154 Salem Street on its own, where we were contemplating, I believe it was either a 32 or a 36 unit apartment building out back. And then at that time, something changed with the economy, but my client just decided to table it and didn't go forward. Now he's decided to come back and or they've decided to come back and start the development process again. And we had a conversation. He said, I want to go back with the multifamily. And I discussed this option with him of the attached dwelling complex. And we talked about the fact that this might be really a good marketable thing in town. It's a unique product. I think it's a product that's needed, desirable. Unlike the mid-rise, 5-story type buildings that you're seeing on Nahant Street being proposed, I thought that this would, really fit nicely into the neighborhood compared to something like that. And my client agreed, and he decided that he thought this project had a need in Wakefield and would fit into the neighborhood with a townhome type project. So this is how we decided to proceed at this point. And what's nice about it is it's really going to be, with the heights back here compared to a mid-rise apartment building, you're really not going to see it. It's not going to stand out in the neighborhood. It's going to kind of be, it's kind of going to fit back here very nicely. Also, these will be 3-bedroom units. So 18% of these under our inclusionary zoning will be affordable and count towards subsidized housing inventory. But beyond that, they will be very desirable for a family. A lot of the multifamily, apartment, mid-rise and gardens that, families, do live there. But this really is nice. It's 3 bedrooms. It's somewhat like single family living. It's in a neighborhood type area. So I think as far as the affordable units go, they'll be very desirable and a real good amenity for the town and the people that are fortunate enough to live there. I also want to point out that I think you're all aware that Salem Street has been recently repaved. My client actually took the initiative to reach out to the Wakefield Municipal Gas and the DPW prior to that paving to occurring, and has already brought all of the necessary underground utilities onto the site that they will not have to disturb the new pavement that was just laid down. So that's already been brought onto the site, and they will not have to open up the very newly paved Salem Street, and they can leave it as is. We've already had a meeting before the planning board on this, and they're going to be continued. They're going to meet again on this in the near future. So we're going to be kind of going back and forth with your board and their board, and that board, I should say. And so we'll keep you informed, and they want to be informed what your thoughts are too as we go along, because some of this has to kind of be done in unison as far as drainage is concerned and some of the infrastructure elements of the project. Through that planning board process, some of the abutters had attended, and I do want to note that we're thankful to them. We've been in touch with some of the direct abutters and folks. I know at least one person across the street that my client has been in touch with and met. The folks, as you come in immediately on the right, is Nablus Way. There's an industrial building there. It's owned by Nablus Realty Trust. We're very appreciative of them because we've had actually now a couple of meetings, and they have they're very sophisticated development people, and they know what they're doing. We've met with them. We've met with their attorney, who I think is here tonight, Kevin Geeney. We had a meeting with them because we're trying to address any concerns that they might have as far as drainage goes on their property. So I just want to point that out. So you know, if some of these abutters decide not to speak tonight, it's not because there's not concerns. It would be because we've taken the opportunity to meet with them, and we're working offline with them on some of their concerns, and they might speak tonight anyways, but I wanted to point that out, and we'll continue to do that to make sure that we continue to work with them as we move forward. I want to point out, and Rich will talk about the landscaping, but what's one thing to note here, there's no skimping. This project involves or is proposing 360 plantings on the property, which is huge. And we'll get into the detail as we go along with that. We also, at the commencement, have submitted a traffic study, as you know, will be continue to be before the Traffic Advisory Committee on that. And I'm sure you'll want to hear from them as we proceed. As I mentioned, we'll continue to work with the abutters. We're committed to do that, and the DPW and the Conservation Commission on stormwater as we move forward. We have not yet filed with the Conservation Commission on this yet. Rich Williams, our site civil, wanted to have more of kind of his arms around on what we were doing with drainage after further discussions with some of the abutters and also with the town engineer to make sure that he's not having to do stormwater studies twice for the Conservation Commission. So once we get a better grasp on that, we will be filing with the Conservation Commission. So with that said, I think what we'd like to do tonight, besides my introduction of the project, is to just do a kind of a quick overview with Rich Williams on site civil with not a lot of detail, especially as to drainage, because a lot of that is a moving part at this point. And then also Nirjus, just to kind of go through the architecturals from a 30,000 foot view, if that's okay, Mr. Chair.
Yep, please do.
Okay, Rich, if you could take the screen and proceed.
All right, can everyone see that?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. And thank you, Brian. And just to repeat, I'm Rich Williams with Williams and Spragus. Our offices are in Middleton, Massachusetts. And we're quite familiar with this property. We've been working on it for 12 years or so. And just to back out a little bit, I know Brian showed you this slide. It shows you the road and the locus. I just wanted to just point out the location of, in general, the abutting structures to our right as you enter the road. We've got two residential structures. Those are duplexes, and then going back Nablus Road is a commercial building, and on the left side is a single-family residential, and those structures are up near Salem Street, a little bit away from any of the work that we're doing on Lot 3 here. This is the existing conditions. I just want to describe briefly the general topography and the wetlands. This lot was the result of a gravel removal operation, and the area where the gravel removal is generally the outline of these steeper slopes, and in this area was taken, removed, and it's fairly flat. There's about a 10-foot difference in elevation from Salem Street to the lower area in the back here, and this upper area is pretty flat, plateau-like area. And you can see off the sheet to our southeast is a wetland system, and that wetland system is attached to the wetland system that also shows on the plan to the south, that surrounds the upland area that includes our lot. Also of note, and Brian described the zoning, so I won't go through that. But there is an existing sewer easement. There's a trunk sewer that comes down through Nablus and the abutters property, and then along or through our property and out to the town of Wakefield. This area here is owned by the town of Wakefield. And that sewer's been there for a long time. Take you to the layout sheet here. So the proposal, actually, I'm going to use this sheet. This is our grading sheet, but really a better sheet to use to describe what's going on. We're proposing to come in off the cul-de-sac on the road that's being designed and permitted for the subdivision. The main driveway access comes off. It's a 22-foot wide drive and provides access to the 13 units that we're proposing. Each of these units has a single car garage as well as a place in front of the garage to park a vehicle. So each unit has 2 spaces at the garage. And then there are 8 additional guest spaces. One being out at the main entrance. That's a regular parking space. And then there are 2 handicapped accessible spaces on the left side of the drive. And then 5 spaces out towards the back. Those are the 8 guest spaces. These buildings are, there's 2 4-unit buildings. This is units 1 through 4 is a 4-unit, and 5 through 8 is a 4-unit. And then at the back of the property or the back of the development is units 9 through 13, which is a 5-unit building. And in order to build these buildings and fit in with the topography, for the most part, they are enter at first floor level in the front and then walk out at basement grade in the rear. And that allows us to be at grade in the back and meeting existing conditions, while also being able to provide a drainage system which is centrally located under the pavement. And I'll take you through that in a little bit, but it works out pretty good in that respect. The units 5 through 8 are not completely walkout. Unit 8 is a walkout. Units 5 and 6 are walkout of the first floor to the adjacent grade. So those don't have a walkout basement. And unit 7 is halfway between a walkout first floor and walkout basement. So that's the grading scheme that we've got. We also have 2 site retaining walls. One that will start at unit 1 here and run parallel to the back of the building, and another wall that is located over here, and that allows us to keep the 25-foot no disturb that the Conservation Commission is going to be looking for. And those walls, this wall here averages about 8 feet tall, and this wall back here is averages about 7. For the utilities, as Brian said, the water and gas have been taken off Salem Street, so those are stubbed out. and the water will run in the road. There is a hydrant proposed in the circle, and then a water service that will serve all of these units. The water service for this bank of units 5 to 8 is in the back, and the others 1 through 4 and 9 to 13 are in the front. The sewer will connect to the existing trunk sewer that runs through the property. So pitches from about 100 feet into the site in the new roadway, collecting the sewer in the townhouse development, and then discharging at this location in the trunk sewer. And our drainage for this development is all handled through subsurface infiltration and stormwater detention systems. These are subsurface systems that provide the necessary pretreatment with the catch basin and grit tank, and then those leach into the ground and have an emergency overflow that will discharge out behind the units, and ultimately, if that overflow occurs, go to the wetland. But it's designed for the 100-year storm to accommodate it without an overflow.
So Mr. Williams, can I just interrupt you here? We're trying to be at 10,000 feet. We're gonna come back and do a whole, we're gonna do site.
Sure,
survey.
I'm done with these utilities. I'm pretty close to being done.
Yeah, you're getting in the weeds here on something we're gonna
Okay.
cover later.
Sure thing. And then landscaping. I did not do the landscape plan, but I'll take you through it generally. Street trees are proposed as they are, would be on any street. But we've, as Brian said, proposed lots of trees and shrubs, in particular for the 13 units in the back. We've got screening between the residential, the lots 2 and 4, which have residential structures on them. There's a mix of spruce trees and other ornamental trees that divide this from those folks. Also, along our westerly boundary, we've got a row of arborvitaes that we provided, and some other spruce trees down here, as well as a new privacy fence that is going to run the whole length of the property, and that occurs up behind these units as well, although that's not really part of this application. And the dark green is the area that is not proposed to be altered.
Okay.
And just to add one other thing, our trash pickup will be private. It's expected that everyone will keep the trash in and pull out barrels at pickup time.
Yeah, we'll get into all that on operation and maintenance.
Okay.
If we get that far. All right.
Yep.
Brian,
So now we're going to hand
well,
over, if we could, to Nurgis just on the architectural.
Someone have, while that's still fresh in people's mind, do board members have questions or comments on that, or you just want to move on?
Chip put his hand up, but I don't know if he's.
Yeah, I have lots of questions. One of all, we were getting into the weeds, so I appreciate you saying something. I always get concerned when we get plans that look like they've been approved, and we haven't even seen it or talked about it yet. So the first thing I want to make sure people understand, that I understand, is this is a proposal. This is not a done deal. And the plans to me seem to be way far along as compared to what would normally happen on a first presentation. So for myself, I just have to be reminded of that. My first comment is there's just a lot of pavement. I don't know if we can do anything about the roundabout with the driveway. but there's a lot of pavement even in amongst the units. So that's one thing. Two things, I'm not excited about 7 and 8 foot retaining walls to jam these units inside of that. So from a site standpoint, those are two things that jump out at me, the pavement and the retaining walls. Now I'll wait for the architecturals, but from what I can see from a site plan, my first thought looking down at 10,000 feet is that there's way too many units here, that it's way too condensed, it's way too compact, and the space is too narrow. I don't like the 5 units at the end. I don't like units looking into the side of other buildings. We've done that with houses. It hasn't turned out well. I don't think it would turn out well here. So I'm willing to hear about the architectural, but right now, with that first presentation, I think it's too dense, too much parking, and I don't like the retaining walls in order to jam it all in.
Okay, Joe?
Yeah, real quick. You mentioned gas. Are you bringing gas down the street? You did mention there was a gas hookup, but are you plan on?
Yeah, the gas
bringing
is only going to be for the first 3 lots, not the
Not for the
13
not for the
unit
multi.
development. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else before we move on to architecture? All right, Brian, let's proceed.
Go ahead, Nergis.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Good evening, Mr. Chair, board. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Neris Bubnalis from KDI in Somerville. So I'll pick up from where Brian and Brian started, and Rich jump in on quickly on just the site and orientation, sort of a bird's eye view of the site where you can see 2 buildings on left and right, each of them 4 units, then a 5-unit building in the back. You can evidently see each one has its own driveway and a garage, and then sort of separating landscape areas in between the driveways. So the design intent of this development was in our eyes was to provide each townhouse within the building with a distinctive and unique look, by creating sense of individuality while maintaining overall cohesive aesthetic. We also wanted to sort of visually reduce the scale of the building, and we thought we were successful by introducing the mansard style roof, sort of that breaks up the massing horizontally. And then the other thing we did, looking at sort of at the plan view, we shifted each townhouse block within the each structure, to break up and segment and fragmented that walls and the roof lines to further reduce the visual bulk. And then we can go into more details on the views if you want to, but I'm going to jump into materiality and other design elements. So on exterior design, so you can see that sort of dominant architectural style is dominant in this one, showcasing a lot of elements like few styles of dormers, Juliet balconies, traditional doors and windows, adding some character with a round circle of window for interior, sort of a more interesting interior spaces. In terms of materials, we're looking at long, low maintenance, long-lasting materials like cementitious siding. In terms of color scheme, we're looking to use sort of like you see organic, earth toned colors, sort of that will blend in the building in sort of wooded area within and blend in the nature. We, initially we propose some lighting, just building lighting at this point. I'm not going to go into details. You see the elevations of the typical building, and then previously we mentioned different types of sort of, it will be, most of the units will be identical with few small variations, like basements being walkouts versus sort of having a light well for the egress. So just wanted sort of to show a few different rear elevations of the builds. Like would be building 1 to 4, units 1 to 4 would have a like walkout basement as you see here in this view, and we would have a building. Let me get to, for example, building units 5 to 8. You'll see at the top view, you see like walkout, sort of intermediate level, and walkout on the first floor, and light walls on from the basement, intermediate, and then walkout basement unit, just because of the grading of the site. Quickly in the areas of the building, you know, as previously mentioned, there will be 3 bedrooms, 4.5 bathroom units. You know, approximately 2,600 each, 2,600 square feet each, a plus minus 300 square feet garage. I quickly can jump through the typical plan. You know, basement, looking at the basement with the sort of stairs on one side, with having the family room with either walkout or light well, with the bathroom for the floor and mechanicals towards the street, slab on grade above. Going up the main floor, you see the garage on the left, the door to the unit, same the front door to the outside. Stair will lead you down to the basement from the front entry, and then up to the upper floors in the back, where we'd have on this floor we have 1 bedroom with a full bathroom. If you go up, you have sort of open concept floor plan with the living room facing towards the back, and kitchen dining towards the front. Have bathroom on the floor. And then if you go up to the upper floor, so you see this oversized windows within the dormers. Will be two variations. The corner or like back units would have a little bit more windows, but you will have on that floor sort of primary bedroom and bathroom with the covered recessed deck, as you see it here at the top, and then another bedroom, full bathroom, washer dryer on that floor, and then a small study area. Flat roof for, you know, sort of not a real mansard, but a flat roof at the top with a mansard look from the side. And from here, I think we can, I'll end up my presentation and open for comments and questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Can you stop sharing, Nurjas? Thank you.
Okay, board members, comments, questions? Anybody?
Too dense.
Maybe everybody's too timid.
No, I'll take a stab. I mean, I
Feel
like
free
the
to-
project. I like the project so far. I mean, I know Chip mentioned it was kind of big. I don't know, maybe it was just the way the some of the pictures looked. They looked kind of tall. The mansard, I know you're trying to make the mansard roof look like it was less than 3 floors, but it actually looks more than 3 floors, even though it is only 3 floors. So something to think about. Maybe cut it down to 2. I know you lose a lot of the ground space with the garage, but 3 floors in that area, 13 units, it starts to get overwhelming. So that was my original comment.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Kasumi?
I think it's the building may be a little bit too narrow, because you are explaining each unit is gonna have its own trash barrel, and then you're gonna pull out those. So I assume everybody's gonna put those in the garage, but with looking at the width of the building, you almost have to move both of your car out to pull your trash bins out. So you might wanna think about that. That was my initial comment.
Okay, thank you. Dave, see your hand up?
Yeah, similar comments. I'm just trying to digest this initial look of it, the scale, the size, the outsides, they feel heavy to me. I got to get my head around it. It might, as Chip said, might just be too much. We've tried this in other sites, maybe not this many units, but these sort of duplex like the Oxbow and a couple others. One on the Hunt comes to mind, where we try to wedge a couple and they're sort of like facing each other and 90-degree angles, and I just don't know that it works, right? So just need to think about this some more, and whether this many units, the way they're positioned, really works. But anyway, just my initial take. I'm not getting into site civil really at this point, just really looking at the buildings themselves and how many we're talking about here. But my other question to you, Mr. Chair, can we get a copy of these plans that are presented to us sent electronically? I know we got the initial package on paper, but can we get an
Yeah, yeah.
of what's presented tonight? I just like,
Yeah.
I like to see them electronically. I like to look at them on my laptop and zoom in and things like that. It's easier
Yep.
than holding paper on my island.
We'll
So,
take care of that.
yeah,
Yes,
if we can get them sent, appreciate it.
no problem.
Yep. And I'm sure they'll change over time, but at least to get started, it'd be good to have what we was presented tonight. That's it, Mr. Chair, for now.
Thank you, Dave. Anybody else?
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, couple questions. Brian, did I miss who L&L Development is?
It's the
Who
owner
are
of,
these people?
yeah, it's the owner of, L&L is the owner of 154 Salem Street.
Okay, and they're partnering with 158 Salem?
Yeah, it's the same ownership group, Chip. It's,
Same
basically L&L Development LLC purchased 154 Salem Street. And then, as they've owned it, the same ownership group purchased 158 Salem Street. It's just a different entity. And I don't know if it's the same ownership group. It's related to some extent.
And what other developments have this group done that would be similar to this size and scope?
Yeah, so Nick, can you respond to that, and what other projects you folks have been involved in?
How you doing? Nicholas Leo from L&L Development.
Hey, Nick.
How you doing? So we've done many other projects in Winchester. We did a 5 single family brand new road called Stonefield Circle. We did 6 single families in Medford called Fellswood Circle. We did 4 townhouse units in downtown Wakefield at I think it was 263 Albion Street. We've done multifamily from 25 units, 4-story building in Cambridge to 5-story building in East Boston, 42 units. So we've been developing for over 20 years, all different sizes and types.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We always like to know who we're working with.
Yep.
And the expertise behind it. So it certainly sounds like you have some.
Thank you.
So the architect said they, tried to make every one of these look individual. As far as I'm concerned, they didn't succeed. They've got 2 styles, one that has a round 3rd floor roof and one that has a triangle 3rd floor roof. So out of 13 units, they've got 2 styles. I think the architecture itself is clunky, which goes back to, I think, maybe Joe's and Dave's comment that they seem hefty and heavy. I would agree. I'm playing with whether I like two driveways or whether they should be unit to unit and have one big pavement in the middle and more green grass so it doesn't look so choppy, right? If you just swap the units, you could do both driveways together. I don't know if that would help or hurt kind of the look as to how much pavement there is back in here. If you go to the slide that shows from the circle in, it's just a lot of building and a lot of pavement with some little plantings. To me, it just seems too heavy. I don't know how to not make it heavy. Might be height, might be size, might be angles, but it seems really heavy to me. So those are my comments to start.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment.
We'll get to public comment later, Mr. Smith. This is the discussion amongst board members currently. Thank you, though. We'll get to
No
you.
problem.
So, Mr. Chair, yeah, just one other thought, and I think Brian stayed up front and I asked, I just, for the benefit of the abutters here, as they may be wondering, and I don't know if they picked up on it. But you showed a site that goes from Salem Street all the way back with those other single family and duplex units up towards Salem Street. Those are not part of what we're going to review. Right?
Correct.
We're only talking about those those buildings in the back.
The
Those other
13
things
units.
have been divided by the planning board into separate lots. And your clients intend to redevelop them by right in whatever capacity they can be, single or duplex, right?
Yeah.
And if there is some need, as you said, to do something, you might come back for a finding, but as part of this process, as we get started, we're only talking about the stuff in the backs, even though you put up
Yeah.
site plans that show other things up front. I just want to, maybe to restate for the purpose of the benefit of the public, we're not talking about those, right? They're not in our purview, not
Yeah.
part of this, what we ultimately may decide on, right?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is, and that's a good point, and thank you. And part of it also is where the property is, you got the split zones on this property, and where this attached dwelling complex is industrial. And, as Nick had mentioned, they're sophisticated developers, they're property owners and developers. And, one of the things they looked at with the industrial, was foregoing maybe residential up front and just doing an industrial development in the back by right. If they put a road in. With a manufacturing building, a contractor's, storage facilities, and they just didn't think it was right. But just the way it's really awkwardly zoned with that industrial piece out back. And that's why they felt that the town use compared to other uses in the industrial district by right was, really, would be beneficial to them, quite frankly, but also more beneficial to the neighborhood compared to what potentially could go back there.
Mhm. Well, another point too, again, just for everyone's awareness, you said you have to go to Concom too. So there's wetlands, and their jurisdiction too. And the surface filtration you'd be doing, there are probably concerns about, this development exacerbating any issues back there with, I don't know if it's the Mill River, what's going on back there in that site, in that industrial area. But just, I know there's concerns, right? I've heard them already from people I know, that heard this was coming. And so they may have to go to the Concom meetings too, if they want to express concerns in those regards. That again, we may or may not get into here, as they relate to that, the wetland aspects to it. But, again, just so everyone's aware, they may have to come to these meetings to talk about the things we're talking about, and Concom to any, hear and address any concerns around, the wetlands aspect and their purview, right?
Mhm.
So just, there's still a lot of people here, and I imagine they're here for this. I imagine. So they may have similar
I thought
questions
they were
once we
here
open
for,
it up,
to
Mr.
see
Chair.
if we were gonna, yeah,
Yeah.
I thought they were here, we're gonna see if we were gonna improve our minutes from last meeting, but, Greg?
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, so just with us reviewing the buildings in the back, and there was detailed landscape drawings shown with the additional units there, but I would think that we would need to, in order to approve the 3 buildings in the back, we would need to approve a landscape plan that does not show the buildings and what the end result would be, assuming there'd be an approval process for the single family home and the 2 townhouses up front. What would the site look like if that took a longer review process for those buildings? What would the landscaping look like up front before there was any approval for the new buildings?
Okay.
So is the question, Greg, that if the planning board approves a road and we start developing the houses before anything happens out back, what would it look like?
I think you get an approval for the buildings out back, and what would the landscape plan look like with no approval for the buildings up front towards Salem Street?
Well, the buildings up front will be by right because, once that planning board approves the road, which you know, as long as we don't have, you know, which is really a by right process through the planning board with conditions. If we meet their rules and regulations, that's gonna give us the frontage for lots 1, 2, and 4. And there's no approvals for the construction of those houses, or houses on those lots.
Okay, would the landscape plan that we would be approving for the 3 larger buildings in the back, would that be a landscape plan that did not include the buildings up front by right?
Yeah, we will work with the planning board on that because we can talk to them about it. They might want to condition something like that, and that's where both boards work together. Or you might want to condition it as an off-site improvement. We'll have to figure that out as we go. But, you know, if we're making a commitment to do landscaping like that, we're certainly willing to work with both boards to make sure that there's ironclad conditions that it actually gets done and is maintained.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I think we're gonna want a comprehensive approach, so that's a good point, Greg. We're gonna want this to, if something goes forward here, to mesh in with what happens at those as of right projects.
Yeah.
So, from where I'm sitting though, I actually am in a little bit different spot than others. I think this needs some work, but I actually appreciate the approach. I think there could be a lot more density back there. Maybe I'm really gun shy from working with 240B applications for the last year to start off with 13 units back there and something a little bit more creative than just a mid-rise apartment building. I'm kind of there. So I'd rather be working with this approach than coming in with something with a lot more traffic, with a lot more units and a lot more complications. So you know, again, people have made some valid points about architecture and some other things around the edges, but I don't know if we're going to do better than this few units on this lot as a starting point. So with that, if there's not any more questions or comments from the board, anybody else?
Nope, not tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am going to open it up to the public. And as I do, as Dave mentioned, and as others have said, now I'm going to repeat it here. We're at the 10,000-foot viewpoint. There's going to be a lot more meetings on this, meetings that just focus on traffic, meetings that focus on massing and design, meetings that focus on site civil work, meetings that focus on landscape and lighting and all those things. So you will have plenty of opportunity to discuss those details. We're just trying to get an initial reaction from folks tonight from this 10,000-foot view of what is being proposed. So with that, I think I see the first hand on my screen is Eric Savage. And when you testify, if you could identify yourself and give your address for the record, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Savage, 25 Toby Lane. Obviously I understand the earlier units, the first 5 units there, as they said, are going to happen no matter what. The back units, I obviously am against, and I do not think it has to. Salem Street, we have waited for years for Salem Street, the construction equipment to be paved and get it back to our traffic to restore to normal. This project will take years again. It's going to disrupt ours and our children's lives again. And now, just talking about the density of the town, now that MBTA zoning has passed and the big project at the head of the lake, Nahan Street and so on, our town resources are already stretched thin. Our population is going to grow and grow, but we have the same number of roads and the same number of schools and the same number of police and fire personnel. I believe if this zoning gets changed and this full development is allowed to go forward, I believe that the Nablus Road spot will have the exact same thing happen. I think once they see that this was able to go through and you could build that many units on there, I think that that lot, which is right next to it, would do the exact same thing and would be right back here again. I appreciate Mr. Tarbell's comments about the presentation, trying to appear like this project has already been moved along. I feel that Mr. McGrill's description of what could be done here instead of what he's presenting is a bait and switch tactic. We do not have to do this. I ask you, the board, and as you go forward to take a look at this, please side with the current residents, the people that already live here. Please do not side with the large developers that do not live here. I appreciate your efforts tonight and your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I see Edward Smith.
Yes, my main concern, well, I should tell you who I am first.
Just give me, yeah,
Um,
and your address, please.
Address, Edward Smith, 162 Salem Street, and I'm the butter on the east side of the proposed development. And the direct abutter, that is. And my main concerns are due to safety, with the corner already being very tough as it is. And you gotta look like left, right, back, and you hear screeching at night and a lot of fender benders. I just think this is gonna compound a problem that already exists and make it worse. So I was just wondering, like, who would be signing off on such a thing, as you realize this is probably one of the busiest streets in Wakefield, busiest residential street. And I just think it's an accident waiting to happen. And
So,
I
Mr.
could
Smith,
see, give me 1 minute. I could see, a cul-de-sac with like 3 or 4 houses, but not this many units. It's just, it's gonna cause more chaos, and I'd hate to see like something bad happen. There's a lot of kids and pedestrians, people walking their dogs. Maybe an unsuspected driver coming through that's not familiar with the area. It's just, I just think it's an accident waiting to happen. Let me rephrase that. Accidents waiting to happen. And I'd just like more to be looked into this, because I think it could really be a problem. And I appreciate you taking the time, and I hope you can get back to me on my concerns.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was going to try to answer your question. And what happens is that this project will file a traffic study with the town's traffic advisory committee. The town's traffic advisory committee is made up of Wakefield Police, Wakefield Fire, and the DPW. They take a comprehensive look at the sight lines, to your point of it being on the corner, the amount of traffic that will be generated versus what's there. And they take a long look at that. If you're interested in that, what will happen is that there will be a public hearing of that traffic advisory committee. You should watch the town's website and attend that. That traffic advisory committee, once they've met, they'll make some determinations. They will turn over a memo of their recommendations or cites and concerns or comments to this board. And then this board will also hold a public hearing based on the traffic advisory committee's memo and their comments. So someone in the town subject matter experts will be taking a good hard look at this. You can be rest assured of that. We don't do that. We don't do this all by ourselves. So with that, the next hand I see up is Scott Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Scott Hanley, 5 Toby Lane. We live across the street, have been here for over 30 years, and we also have seen the increase in traffic on Salem Street. Whenever there's problems on 128, people going east or west, we always seem to get it. Just as an overview, I will echo some of the comments from some of your other board members that I do think the density here is too much. The slide we saw looking from the cul-de-sac into the buildings, it was quite dense, and it looked and appeared to be very narrow, like an alleyway. It just looked like it was, way too congested in there. I realize other boards are going to take a look at this. I'd be very interested to see what the Conservation Commission has to say with, the 100-foot wetland, the 25-foot buffer zone, drainage, and all that. But like you said, as an overview from 10,000 feet, I think the density could be less than 13 units. It looks to be, in my opinion, a little disconnected from the front part of the lot to the back. The front part of the lot with, the duplexes and the single family home and the cul-de-sac does look residential. The back 13 units looks more, like inner city. It's just a little too congested in my opinion. And I will be attending all the rest of the other boards, but I just wanted to offer my views at this point in time. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Next hand up, I see Laura McGovern.
Hi, this is Jim McGovern. Laura had to go to bed.
Okay.
So we live at 155 Salem Street, and I think most of the things I would say have been touched upon from a traffic safety standpoint. All of the traffic light poles, the telephone poles have been hit on my side of the street. My retaining wall has been hit. That's with the existing traffic flow, and now that, of course, Salem Street's paved, nice, it's easy to go fast. So they're adding more units from a traffic perspective will be something I want to hear from the Traffic Advisory Committee on. The view, I could agree with what Scott said and what the Chip Tarbell said. The units are too close together. They are not pleasing to the eye, and I think they offer too little room to maneuver. It looks like in those parking lots. And that's it for me. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Next up, I see Paul. Is it Lovano?
That's correct, Lovano. Thank you. Paul Lovano, Paul and Annie Lovano at 168 Salem Street. Just want to reiterate what Eric and Scott and Ed have said, everyone said so far. We have no problem with the cul-de-sac, other than I'd like to see the traffic safety because it is on a blind uphill corner. Traffic has gotten much worse since it's been paved, which we're thankful has been paved, and we've been living through 9 years of pavement on Salem Street. But it's now, it's a cut through street. Fox 25 every morning take Salem Street, which doesn't help. Not opposed to the cul-de-sac as it's presented. The units, there are just too many of them, too tall. Each one of those units is bigger than our house, and there's 13 of them. It just doesn't fit the neighborhood. Worried about the stress on the road, on the fire, police, and traffic safety. I think Annie has a few things to add.
I'm particularly concerned. So we live, there's where the proposed section is. Next to that is Ed Smith, who just spoke, and we're right next to them. So it's all, we have a long backyard that is kind of the same. But that's a floodplain, and that's an active floodplain. And every snow melt and every big rain, that if you look at that on a map, and if you ask the people on New Salem who get flooding every year to look at that green space on a map and really evaluate how much of that green space is now going to be concrete, because it is a shocking amount of green space that's going to be going away in a floodplain in a wetland. And we talk about how, oh, it's going to be fine, it'll be rated for 100-year storms. Well, that's great, except we get 100-year storms every year now. They're an annual thing. I'm very concerned about the wildlife back there. We have mating bald eagles, red-tailed hawks. There is a very active coyote pack living back there, very healthy. But you want to see how many more complaints we start getting when we take more of their home away from them. The reason that area hasn't been built on is it's a swampy floodplain that they've been shoving gravel into over the last 10 years to try to get it where it is. very concerned about those back units, how many there are. I'm not sure if the architect is from Florida, but in New England, we wouldn't say that's a really very difference in the way things look. They're not attractive, but the primary concern is sincerely, it's the safety of where things are. It's how much wetland and floodplain are going to be lost to concrete. And it is just the impact of the environment in this area and just how big those units are. Those are huge 4-story apartment or townhomes that are bigger than most of the single family homes on the street. It just doesn't fit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Elio Moro?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I just obviously wanted to attend to see what this was about since this is the new hearing and I'm learning a lot about this as far as there's going to be different meetings to talk about traffic safety and all these other things. I echo a lot of the sentiment from everybody else. Oh, sorry, I'm at 6 Toby Lane. So I'm also neighbors with a bunch of the folks that have already talked, agree with them wholeheartedly on a lot of their feedback. And with everyone else that's been speaking, the buildings do look very tall, big for that area. They look packed in that area. It doesn't look like a nice fit. The concern is the Nebula Street industrial area may want to do the exact same thing, like Eric said at the start. I feel like it's not a good idea. That's all I really want to say. I plan to attend more meetings and learn more about it, but I do feel like this is not right for the space there. And there is a lot of woods that are going to be taken down, the wetlands, conservation stuff, all that stuff that will be, I'm sure, discussed at further meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I see Stephanie Garofalo.
Hi, yes, Stephanie Garofalo, 19 Appleton Road. I just wanted to also voice my concern and just kind of mimic, I think, what Eric started. I think it's just too much in that area. I think, as someone else said, fine with the cul-de-sac. I think maybe just less. I think the concern over at Appleton is we are being used more and more as a cut through. And having that so close to Appleton, we are going to get more cut through. And there's a lot of kids on our street now. And that's, pretty concerning to us. We definitely saw that with all the work being done on Salem Street. And, that's a concern. I think another concern would be with all the units in the schools, all the new apartments at the lake, all those schools are zoned for Dolbear. These units will also be zoned for Dolbear. Dolbear is not getting any bigger. So, just wanted to voice the concerns over that as well. And I think, as others said, is this going to just happen on the next street over? So just wanted to voice those concerns. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next up, I see Sean Majerison. Sean, you're on mute.
Like to keep you guessing what I'm saying. Thank you very much. 171 Salem Street, Sean Majerison. I live right next to Toby Lane, and I have a couple of questions, but and they may or may not be answerable at this meeting, but let me go through them anyways. Not many. These units appear to be 3-bedroom. What are the specs for how many spaces are required for a 3-bedroom? I was just surprised that there was only one single garage and a 1-car space for 3 bedrooms, because logically you get at least 3 or 4 cars with 3 bedrooms.
Brian, you want to go over the parking ratio with him?
Yes, 2 parking spaces per 3-bedroom unit are required under the zoning bylaw. So that we have an excess amount of parking from what's required under the zoning.
That's interesting. Does anyone know if the TAC report or assessment considers accidents within a certain amount of feet from proposed roads?
Yeah. part of the traffic study that they look at traffic in the area, including accident reports.
Just kind of an aside and probably a little bit less professional, but one thing that I will say is my family and I, over the years, we've lived here since 1997, 1998. And we used to joke about how many, every other year, we would see an accident right on that corner. There's a little bit of snow, a little bit of ice coming towards town. It would go straight into right in front of the McGovern's house, whether it hit that pole or whether it hit the anyways, that used to be the going joke, how many we would actually see. It's a very, very common for accidents. And this is just a commentary, and I may not go anywhere, but I just wanted to throw this out there. What I'm more surprised at with this development is, considering you've got Patriots Way, considering you've got much higher end homes being built along Salem Street, I'm just surprised that this wouldn't have, or the option to build higher end homes, $2 million homes on that cul-de-sac, wasn't more of an option to be considered. I'm just throwing that out there because if you look at Patriots Way, that type of thing, that's a lot of money. Now, I understand that you've gone a certain route. I totally get that, and it's an amount of how much money you can make on 13 or 17 units, but it certainly does make me wonder with how much money is available for larger homes these days, if that wasn't a better suited use for that land. But that's just neither here nor there. One thing I would like to, if I'm concerned about reducing the speed in general with signs to try and mitigate how fast things are going, is that I'm assuming that's a TAC meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would attend the traffic advisory committee.
Along those lines, how do we get on the, is it required of the citizens to always be checking the town websites and the town links? Or are there emails that you can get on? Does anyone know?
You can sign up to be notified of meetings, Sean. So you'd be notified of public meetings taking place.
Okay. Do you know, is that just a generic email address that you send them to request that? I just don't know where to go for that. So
I would go on the town's website. When you look under boards and committees, the traffic advisory committee is listed there. And you can get some information there.
But just from the main town's website under news, or you can subscribe to news. You can get town news. You can subscribe to meeting agendas, calendar invites.
I was more concerned about
so
trying
you'll
to
get
get
an email when there's a meeting, right? So you can get those, and they'll send
it's
you.
generic. It's not. I didn't want to sit there and say, okay, when's the TAC meeting? When's the planning board meeting? Because that's very inefficient. So this one actually will alert you to any meetings going on.
Pretty sure. I mean, I get my ZBA ones, and I'm pretty sure you can do it through the boards.
All right. I mean, I echo what everyone else said. Heavy is an understatement, and it sure does seem like we're trying to put 10 pounds of you know what in a 5-pound bucket. But I'll just leave it there.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. No, thank you. All right. Anybody else? Okay, I'm not seeing any more hands raised. So with that, I am going to close public comment. Back to the board. Pleasure of the board.
You want to try to think about
No other comments or questions? You want to think about a plot forward and what we want to cover first? Anything else you want to see, Brian? I know, we like to see context studies done. So, I know members are going to want to see that.
Well,
And,
I question what's around it. I mean, there's just an industrial building. I mean, there's really not, what do we want to, I'm fine with a context study, Mr. Chair, but what do you want it in context to? As I look at the site plan, there's not like a neighborhood. There's nothing. There's not, I don't know what I'd compare it to. The industrial building?
Yeah, that's true.
I don't mean to, I know we normally
No,
do.
I wanted to see the heights of the houses up and down Salem Street and then compare
Well,
them.
that's okay. With that to compare the neighborhood, that would be a good one.
Yeah,
So like how big are these things in back in regards
Right.
to what's out front? I'm just
Right.
thinking like they don't back up to anything.
right.
I'd love to start thinking about the density and the cuts of these 8 and 7 foot walls that are behind these units, and maybe there's a way to reposition a few of them so it doesn't feel as, what I use the word heavy, when you look at the end of that cul-de-sac looking into this place. I'd like to understand what they, from a conservation, what their constraints are and where they're going, and some of the other comments that the board members made, which is, they feel too tall and constrained and all that
So-
stuff.
Density, massing, architecture.
Density and architecture.
Yeah.
Because we need to solve how many units there are gonna be before we start worrying about civil. Right?
Yep, usually we start at the architecture and massing, and let's look at the site. Let's look at the buildings and what's being proposed and what else could be done. I think that's where we start. We usually start, right? And get past that.
Do we,
So that's probably what we
did
want to
they-
do next time. Yeah.
Did they give us a height of that building? I can't remember. It was a while back now. Was it under 35 feet? Is that what the
Rich, can
zoning
you
is in
answer
there?
that? Rich? Can you answer the height? You're on mute, Rich.
Well, it's also an industrial zone, so I don't know if it's
No,
different.
I know it might be 50 feet in there. I don't even know.
That's what I'm thinking.
The question is, what is the height of the building?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's gonna vary building to building, right?
Yeah.
Give us.
Well, go from driveway to top of the building, not with whether it's a walkout
It
or.
meets the height requirement,
That's
right, Rich?
probably a better question for the architect, because I
Yes,
think it's on his.
yes, the average around the building, but we intend to comply with the ordinance. 35 is maximum. 3 stories, 35 is maximum. So some of them, if from looking from the street, they might be under 30 feet, but some grade around the building, some of them gets close to 30. The worst case scenarios gets close to 35 compared to average grade.
On the walkouts.
On the walkouts in the back is lower spot, yeah. It's based depending on which, building is.
But every garage elevation to the top of the floor is gonna be the same.
Correct.
So Chip,
So
you
what's
want to know if you take
that
the,
height?
Yeah.
What's that height?
On the front or in the back?
From the front, from the
Front. I don't care what the
garage
back.
door to the top of the roof.
To the top of the roof is, for the first floor is a little bit higher from the grade, so I would say it's like 31 feet or something.
so Nurgis, what
Oh,
he's saying, just to be clear, to make sure you give him the right answer, he's saying if you took the building, right, Chip, on the front and you put it on a flat table, how tall would it be, right?
Yeah, from the front would be.
The garage elevation is the same in every building, correct?
Correct.
So from the garage floor to the top, those 3 stories are gonna be the same. Whether
Same,
there's
correct.
a basement underneath or whether the grade does something different. So you have a set height. Then it varies based on grade around the building.
Yeah, currently we have that like 31 feet.
Okay.
They're well under the, they're well under the requirement. In an industrial district, as the board knows, 60 feet is allowed by right.
They just look tall, but maybe it's just the way it was presented.
I think it's because of the mansard roof, Joe.
I think that's probably what it is.
Yeah, because if you have an A-frame or, or you're a colonial, that 31 feet is at the peak. But
Yeah.
you've got 31 feet, which is the entire top of, it's the entire top of it, which probably comes.
Yeah, then you're talking 25 feet to the gutter. That's why you don't really notice the other
Yeah.
10 feet or whatever, so. I
And
guess-
that's where the term that some of the neighbors have said, and we listen to the neighbors and the board has said, it looks top heavy because probably of that reason, right? So.
Yeah.
Well, I think, Mr. Chair, the first place to go would be what we're talking about, the density, the architecture, the feel from the entry of this cul-de-sac.
Yeah, I just want to give them
Quite
enough
frankly,
that,
I don't think there's gonna be a whole lot of traffic issue. I hate to say it, but this is 13 units. We've seen a lot of 13 units that the traffic study just shows that, you know, now whether it's because it's on the tough corner and whatnot might be another world, but I'm not expecting a whole lot of bombs being thrown by TAC.
have you filed yet, Brian? With them?
Yeah, we already went before them and they wanted some more information, so.
When do you
We-
expect to be back before them for the people?
No, they haven't set a date yet.
Okay. Just for the courtesy, the people that were asking
Yeah,
for
we
it.
don't know,
All right.
but we will be going back
Okay,
as is often,
All
maybe
right.
go back 2 more times, but they have not set a new meeting date yet. There's
Right.
nothing on their schedule.
all right. So I think you've heard from the board. I think you heard from the public. You know what we want to discuss next. The only question now is whether you're going to be ready on December 11th or if you want to kick it into January.
I think I think we need to kick it into January. I do, and I know my client doesn't like to hear that, but we've got some work to do here, and that meeting's coming up quick in December, and we've got to submit beforehand. And you know, any changes, and we need to kind of regroup as a group. And I know you've got 2 very large 40B hearings on December 11th. So you know, I think it would be prudent for us to.
That was kind of my recommendation. I don't
Yeah.
see how you're going to do this in a couple of weeks. I hate to shut people out, but I don't
No.
think it's worth having you back in December, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
January
All
8th,
right.
first meeting in January.
January 8th, so that's what we would continue it to, okay. Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, I see a couple more hands up, but I think you closed the public testimony, right? So,
I did.
all right, so at this point, you're looking for a motion?
Motion to continue to the 8th.
All right, Mr. Chair, I move that we continue this matter to our January 8th, 2025 meeting.
Second.
Motion's been made, second. Any further discussion? Hearing, seeing none. Dave,
Yes,
Joe,
Yes.
Chip,
Yes,
Mickey,
Yes.
I vote yes too. So thanks for the presentation. We'll see you on January 8th.
Thank you very much.
You.
For members of the public, that's not going to be re-advertised. So take note of the January 8th meeting. You won't get noticed again. So you kind of do have to follow along.
but you can sign up for those town news and you'll get notified.
Yep.
When the agenda gets posted, you will.
Yep. All right, moving on to next on our agenda is clerk board comments. Joe, any comments?
No, except for that email that you guys got about the January 6th meeting.
Yeah, we should talk about that. I have a conflict that night in Cambridge. I also, I think we're going to be busy at our December meeting. I'd like to put it up on our agenda, Gail, possibly for the January 8th meeting, for this board to discuss as a group. You know, there's a link there to the, you know, the latest and greatest that they put together. I'll give everyone a chance to read through it. We can discuss as a group, discuss what we're gonna maybe present as a group where we come to agreement. And there might be some things we want to do as individuals that not everyone agrees with. So I'm gonna suggest that I write Dan back and maybe try either for the following Monday, maybe. Does that work for people? What's that, the 13th?
13th. I'd like to do it a week we don't have the ZBA meeting,
Okay, so you want to do it either the,
13th or
Alright.
the 27th.
okay.
I can't
How
think
do
of a
those
more
work for
fitting
folks?
birthday present.
I think he's fine with that. I mean, he didn't bring that date up. He wanted to do it sooner the better because he's trying to get it situated for the next town meeting, which is in April. So he's trying to get all his ducks in a row. He wanted to do it the same night of our ZBA meeting. I said, that's fine if you want to wait till midnight to discuss.
To start,
He shut
to start and
down
go
that.
till about 6 in the morning.
Yeah, so he shut that down real quick. He goes, no, I'd rather not. I'd rather do it on a non-meeting day then.
He won't get you
Yeah.
anyway.
All right, so if you folks just look and send me an email, which works, and then I'll get back to Dan. And let him know that the 6th doesn't work for us, because that doesn't really give us a chance to meet as a board and talk about it. And I can't make the 6th, so,
Can you make the 13th?
yeah,
Should we just
as of right now, yes.
should we just suggest the 13th as an option? And I mean, I'd be, if we have to do the 20th instead of, pushing it off, that's fine with me too. My preference would be not to do another long meeting on another night, because this is gonna be a long meeting. And this isn't gonna just be one meeting.
No, when you go and read through the whole thing, there's a lot there. I went through it once and it took a long time.
I opened it, then closed it.
So are we
I
suggesting that?
give Joe a lot of credit.
Yeah.
I think he's
Suggesting
more
Joe-
concerned about that. He's more concerned about that performance standards package.
But
Most of the other stuff.
You just tell him to take it out, and then there will be no.
That's what,
Because that's
that would
gonna
be
be
my
about the recommendation.
that's it.
Everyone else on the other boards wanted it in, so.
It don't work. But we can't discuss it tonight, but I'm just saying. All right, so Gail, why don't we, if, barring that, let's tentatively try to schedule on our agenda for the 8th. That
To
we,
discuss.
let's put it out there, that this board's gonna have a discussion.
Okay,
And then if the night goes to 11 o'clock, then,
Might be a real quick discussion.
Do you
Right.
want me to mention that to Bobrowski too? If he wants to chime in on that same day? On our meeting night, if he wants to zoom in on it? Or do you want this just between us?
Just between us.
I want between us. Hey, it's a public meeting. He can come if he's,
Yeah, all right. I
I
hear
want to sit through this.
Tell him to come to the December meeting and then see if he wants to come to the next one.
you. What do you mean? It's been such a blast these 4 years. What are you talking about?
All right. Anything else from anybody? So I'm not ready on September 5th minutes.
Oh,
yet.
Tom. Oh, Tom.
I'll get it could be a New Year's resolution, Dave.
It was a good read. They were well done. So, all right.
All right. Well, let's get the October 23rd minutes approved.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the meeting minutes of our October 23rd, 2024 meeting.
Second.
All right. Voice votes good here. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Chair, motion
And
to
at this
adjourn.
point, that's always in order.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy